Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And John Chapman.
We are here as always to talk about stuff live from San Diego for our Comic-Con podcast spectacular.
Yes, we are live. It is San Diego. We are here. We are cosplaying. We are on the convention floor. I'm very excited. It's my second time at San Diego Comic-Con. The last time I was here, I was like 11, so I don't remember much.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm very excited. I think we have some interviews lined up later in the show.
It's great. We're gonna bring Idris Elba on from Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah, it might be kind of hard to, like in Star Trek Beyond, it might be hard to tell that it's Idris Elba for most of the interview, but it will definitely be him. Trust me.
Yes.
It's him. Yes. Absolutely.
We're not actually at Comic-Con.
We aren't.
No.
Oh.
I think it would be, if we wanted to commit to it, a great joke to just do something stupid and pretend for a whole podcast we were actually there and just make up fake shit.
Yeah, but that sounds really exhausting.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, so let's just like cut that bit off right there.
Okay.
So what are we talking about today, John?
We are talking about Comic-Con. I mean, that's the joke.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Comic-Con news, so we're going to go over all of that, and then just news around Comic-Con. This was just a week where things broke because all the media was together in one place. So we have lots of cool stuff to talk about, and I am excited to talk about that. We will also be reviewing Star Trek Beyond, the new Star Trek movie.
Yes.
We did a Star Trek retrospective last week. Thought it only proper to see the new movie and talk about it.
Yeah.
And spoiler-free, Sean, what'd you think?
I think it's a very good movie. I think it's definitely my favorite out of these three more modern Star Trek movies. And I think the only complaint I have with it is I think it's maybe a bit too heavy on the action, and there are like parts of the movie that I wish they would slow down and sort of like focus more on the character stuff, because when the characters do have time to sort of play around and be themselves, this movie gives that cast more room than the other two, and it just displays how great this cast is, how much they understand these characters. Particularly Carl Urban as Bones is fantastic in this movie. So I think if you're a fan of those characters, those character interactions, this is a very good movie to see. I do wish that they slowed things down a little bit here and there, because there's a certain point when you're about the last third of the movie, it's just like action scene after action scene after action scene. It got a bit exhausting for me.
Yeah, I really liked the movie. I think this is exactly what a sequel to the 2009 film should have been.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know where I would rank it among the movies yet. I like it more than Into Darkness, and probably on par with the first J.J. Abrams. I think this one does some things better, and that one does some things better. But it's a very good Star Trek movie, and I like that it's an episode of the original series with this cast, with a big blockbuster budget and verve to it. I love all the action stuff, although that would actually be my one thing I might say, too, to improve it. I actually think, to me, it's not the third act. I think the first act moves through some things too fast. And there are points where I'd like to see like just a 10-minute longer cut of this movie where I feel like some plot and character things just have, even if it's just a couple seconds, to like explain things a little better.
Yeah.
But no, I was very satisfied from top to bottom. And if anything, I thought in some ways this is a movie that got better as it moves along, because I think some of the stuff you learn about the villain and whatnot near the end improves it and makes it clear they have a really strong thematic through line to things. So it's a very good Star Trek movie.
Yeah. It's a very fun summer movie.
Yeah, and it's very solid, and I think from this point on, I'm really curious to see what else they can do with this cast, because I feel like they're on very sturdy ground, and having done something kind of relatively normal for Star Trek, maybe next time out they can go crazy or something. But this was very good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll
Where
talk
it goes from now.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it in a little more detail. And we're also going to talk about Comic-Con news. First off, though, I saw another movie today that is worth talking about, and that is Ghostbusters 2016. Finally caught up with that movie. I did not see it opening weekend because I was kind of out of town for a day that weekend, and then I didn't want to go to the movies. I also was a little hesitant to want to step into that movie opening weekend.
Yeah, there is a weird culture war around that movie that is baffling, I think, to everyone. And
a frustrating culture war. Because my first thing I will say about the movie, and maybe this will give you an idea of my thoughts on it, is that I pity every single person who is refusing to have fun with it.
Sure,
because it's a really fun movie. I love it. It's really, really good. Like, we're talking about, Star Trek today also. I like this more than that. I think this is not the best movie I've seen this summer, but certainly the most fun and just purely enjoyable. I laughed very hard at it throughout. I loved all the characters. I love how they treat the Ghostbusters technology and kind of mythos and stuff, and the fun they have with that. And part of you can't talk about this movie without talking about the culture war around it. That does not impact my thoughts on the movie, I should say.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in discussing it, it's just part of the discussion.
Yeah.
And part of what frustrates me about that discussion is I do have this fundamental disconnect with people who are like the two camps. I love Ghostbusters, and therefore I hate this without seeing it. And to me, it's I love Ghostbusters, and as long as it's smart people doing it and they're not just doing a cash-in or something, I would like to see people play in that world because it's a fun world. And I don't necessarily need them to remake Ghostbusters, but if it's going to happen, I'm glad it happened this way. And I think it's a really fun movie. I like having an alternate look at Ghostbusters stuff, and that the one movie from 1984, because none of us remember the sequel very much.
Yeah.
And I don't hate the sequel or anything, but it's just, it doesn't add much, I feel like. It's nice to have another kind of angle on that. And that angle is in part because you have a female cast this time, which means you just have different kinds of performers and stuff. But also, it's a 2016 movie, and being 32 years after the original, it's a very different kind of comedy they're doing now. I think it's rooted in the same kind of stuff, which is Ghostbusters is very character-centric, context-centric comedy, which is why you can't cut good trailers for these movies. Like, it was very apparent to me, every line that was in the trailers for the new Ghostbusters got a big laugh out of me in the theater, where it did not in the trailer, and it's completely because, devoid of context, those are the wrong moments to highlight.
Right.
Because you don't know the characters yet, so you're not going to laugh at them. But the difference in comedy, I think, between 1984, which is when the original came out, and now, is I feel like modern comedies are a little more fast-paced. They just like to throw a lot of jokes in there.
Definitely.
It's kind of the Judd Apatow effect and kind of his whole factory of people, which is where Paul Feig comes from, definitely, who is the director of the new Ghostbusters, with kind of their improvisational style, and they shoot lots of material, and it's very dense with jokes.
Yeah.
Whereas the original Ghostbusters, very funny movie. It's not a movie where I breathlessly laugh at it.
Yeah, no, it is a movie that takes its time, and it's a movie where there are like stretches of the original Ghostbusters where you kind of forget that it's supposed to be a comedy movie, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of the jokes I don't think are laugh jokes. They're just fun moments with the cast. Whereas I feel like modern comedy in this movie is a little more aggressive in what it tries to do. And I don't have a preference for one or the other. I do like stepping into a movie like this, and it's just balls to the wall. We're going to make you laugh a lot and frequently, and sometimes it's just little details in the back of scenes, sometimes it's just little character reactions, and, I think one thing that's very clear is Paul Feig and the people who made this movie are very good with ensembles. And I think the people acting in this are very used to acting in ensembles. And so there's this, even in a kind of dramatic scene, you might have Kate McKinnon, who is the absolute star of this movie. She is so great. Just in the background with a little facial expression, and I'll be cackling at a moment that is otherwise serious. And, I like that kind of comparison because I don't think there's a moment quite like that maybe in the original Ghostbusters. So I think they each have sort of different strengths. Yeah. The biggest weakness, and I'll get this out front with this movie because it's a weird trend with movies these days, Ghostbusters 2016 has the same problem that like The Amazing Spider-Man and Man of Steel and several other like recent superhero movies, I didn't see it, but Fantastic Four apparently had this problem, where you get the character to become the hero, but without them doing any of the heroic stuff. So like, how in Amazing Spider-Man, he gets the powers, but then he doesn't really do anything Spider-Man-esque until the lizard comes in.
Yeah.
And then in Man of Steel, he is Superman, but he doesn't don the costume and do anything until Zod comes.
Yeah.
And one of the problems with that is it feels like at the end of the movie, well, now they're kind of the hero, but we didn't get to see them do the heroics yet.
Yeah, as opposed to like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man and is doing Spider-Man stuff in parallel to Green Goblin coming up as a villain. So by the time Green Goblin comes into the scene, we know Spider-Man has been handling like street crime and stuff like that, where these modern superhero movies usually just kind of skip out that whole step and tie the hero and villain like directly into each other.
Yes, and that is a frustrating thing about modern movies.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's the one trap this Ghostbusters falls into I don't like. And it's especially weird because they have everything around it just right. And there are so many moments where all they have to do is cut to a montage. Cut to a montage, you have the fucking hilarious Chris Hemsworth answering the phone, and then you have the Ghostbusters run out, they catch a ghost, they bring it back. It's basically just what the original movie did there.
Yeah, the original movie had a very funny montage.
Yeah, just have your funny montage, it's like 5 minutes, and then it feels like you have more of a justification for the existence of these characters in this world.
Right.
Because... And there are just moments that don't ring true because you don't see them doing that, where like in the last half of the movie, people feel threatened by the Ghostbusters, and I'm thinking, well, why? We've seen them bust exactly one ghost.
Right.
Would that really percolate enough? Like the whole point in the original Ghostbusters is they have a business, and they build it up. And there's a lot in this movie of them building up the business, and I love that part of it, but they just missed that one step of where's the montage.
So it would be like if in the original Ghostbusters, all the shit was going down at the end with them being like in the mayor's office and all that stuff, but the only thing they had done was like bust the librarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah, so... Or more accurately, the scene that is in parallel is the scene in the hotel.
Right, okay.
Yeah, where they find Slimer, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So... That's a weird problem, but it's my only real major issue with the movie, and there are jokes that don't work here and there, but that's pretty far, and that's okay. That's comedy happens that way.
Yeah.
But I laughed at the vast majority of it. I really fell in love with these characters, which is all you can ask for in this kind of thing. And I mentioned her before. Kate McKinnon plays this character, Jill Holtzman, who is one of the Ghostbusters, and she is my spirit animal. I love this fucking character so much. She's basically the engineer of the group, and she builds all their tech, and you can just tell everyone involved in this movie has such an intense love for the Ghostbusters tech, which I feel like is something that is in the original movie, but took on a life of its own outside of that movie.
Yeah, with like all the toys and shit like that.
And so this is like almost an ode to that, where she's constantly just building new shit for them to use. And again, that ties into my problem with the montage is, I love that she's doing all that. I want a montage where we see them using it a little more.
Right.
But I love that side of it, because I think that's one of everyone's favorite parts of Ghostbusters, and so she gets to just be the kid who is crazily obsessed with all the ghost catching stuff, but she's also just a very weird, wonderful character on her own. I mean, there's this whole great dynamic in the movie where Holtzman's character is strongly implied to be gay, and she's very attracted to the Kristen Wiig character. And basically, from the moment they meet, she is hitting on Kristen Wiig endlessly, and it's very funny because Kristen Wiig is completely oblivious because she's hitting on Chris Hemsworth, who's the stupid secretary guy, and he's completely oblivious. And so you just have this weird love triangle in the office where nobody knows anyone else is interested in each other, and I love that. It's a very funny office dynamic. So just all the interpersonal stuff in the movie works absolutely wonderfully. Leslie Jones is also very good, Melissa McCarthy, and Chris Hemsworth, man, he is on another planet in this movie. He did some crazy drugs before coming to the set, and is just off his rocker. He's
on that fucking Australian shit, man. You can't get that shit over here.
No, we obviously know Chris Hemsworth is a funny guy if you watch Thor and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is, I feel like, the first time he's gotten to just let loose, because he's basically playing a big, really dumb guy who is very attractive but doesn't really even seem to know that. And the first gag in the movie is he has glasses on, and he reaches up and scratches his eye through the glasses, and they're like, why don't you have lenses in those, Kev? And he says, oh, they got dirty, so I popped them out. It's that kind of stuff. And all the jokes with him are just screamingly funny. The chemistry of the cast is great. I love all the effects with the ghosts and the way they kind of portray the Ghostbusters fighting the ghosts, because they can obviously do a lot more with modern effects than they could back in the original film. So that's a fun side of the movie. I think they go a little overboard with references to the original film.
Because there's a whole line of cameos, right? I remember reading that in some of the reviews.
Everyone who's alive except Rick Moranis has a cameo.
Okay. Just Rick Moranis. He's not going to show up for anything.
No.
That dude is in a cabin in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, he's retired. And very strictly retired. Not like some actors say they're retired and then do 10 more movies.
No, he fucking dropped the mic and left. And he's building a secret society under the ocean or something.
And more power to him. Rick Moranis
I fucking love that guy. He's great.
And some of the cameos are great, and some of them are not. Bill Murray does not want to be there for his cameo, and he looks very bored and tired, and I kind of think they probably... And he gets the biggest scene, too, which makes sense. He is Bill Murray. He didn't want to do it. To my eyes, at least, that's what it looked like, and so I would have preferred maybe they do something else with that scene. But it's fine. It would be weird if he wasn't there, given everyone else there. And then they do some other references here and there. Most of it worked for me just fine. But there are moments where it just feels like the movie kind of stops to do that. And again, it's funny because you have all these people complaining, oh, they're ruining our childhoods. This movie loves Ghostbusters 84 so much.
Right.
And like I said, occasionally to its detriment. That's how much this movie loves that movie. So if that's one of your concerns with it, you are in good hands. This movie loves that movie as much as you do. And maybe more so because they spent a lot of money making this darn thing. So, but yeah, I think if anything, that's a better problem to have than being totally off on how they represent the original movie. So all that works well. I very much enjoyed the movie. I think it is just a ton of fun. It's very creative. It's so dense with jokes and character moments and things I love about it that it's a movie I am actively excited to have the DVD of, just so like I can rewatch scenes and go into detail on some of this stuff. It was a really pleasant, I shouldn't say surprise. I was expecting it to be good because I like the people involved. But for me to enjoy it as much as I did, I was a little taken aback because I just think it works very well, very immediately. And I can't wait for the sequel. Like, this is one where I think this is a really solid foundation. I'm really excited to see when they have another movie, and I think they're free of some of the controversy, and they're free of some of the baggage that just doing a Ghostbusters reboot comes with.
Yeah, when they don't have to do the obligatory cameos and everything like that.
Yeah, what can they do with this cast? And can they do something crazy like the Ghostbusters go to Japan or something? And I don't know. I read an interview with Ivan Reitman where he was talking about that they always talked about how crazy would it be if you had, like Japanese ghosts or Hollywood ghosts or just ghosts from around the world. And I think there's lots of possibilities. So I'm excited to see where they go with this.
Cool.
But it's a good movie.
Cool.
Yeah. What have you been up to, Sean?
Honestly, not much. I haven't really jumped on any new video game stuff lately. I have been continuing some of my rewatching Godzilla movies from getting like a whole bunch of the Blu-rays and stuff that they've released since I've so I've been updating my collection. So then recently, like a couple of days ago, I rewatched Godzilla Final Wars, which is the most recent Godzilla movie Toho has made. And that movie, it's like I had not seen it in probably like 8 or 9 years. That movie is so fucking insane. If there is one movie like modern Godzilla movie that people should watch just to like see it, no matter like what your relationship to Godzilla is, I think people should fucking just see Godzilla Final Wars. It is fucking just it is like The Matrix and like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Godzilla and like pro wrestling all just like smashed together and then just like dumped into acid, and that's what that fucking movie is. It is so nuts.
That sounds like a hearty recommendation to me.
Yeah, that movie's just really it's so fun. Because there's this, I forget what his name is, but there is a UFC guy who is also a pro wrestler who moved to Japan in like the 90s to do pro wrestling. And he plays, so he's like this like big burly American dude, and he plays one of the main characters in the movie who's like the captain of this like flying ship that battles with the giant monsters. He's like Captain Gordon, and he just has this giant mustache, and he speaks all of his lines in English, and like all the other cast members are basically all Japanese, obviously, and they're speaking in Japanese the whole movie, and they're like talking to each other. It's just, it is the most silly, insane, goofy movie. So if people are anticipating like the Godzilla Resurgence movie, which is coming out this year, it's coming out very soon in Japan. It's going to come out later this year.
That's on our news list.
Yeah, in America. And you want to pick up some other modern Godzilla movies to see, like, what was the last movie Toho made? This came out in 2004. It's fucking nuts. So, yeah, go check that out if people are interested.
Well, that sounds awesome. We will have to do some Godzilla talk later in the year, maybe.
Yeah, I can definitely get some of those Blu-rays out, son.
Nice. So are the Blu-rays good?
Yeah, like they're not like the most amazing, like high quality versions of those movies, but they do have like they are like totally acceptable releases of those movies, which is the reason why I bought like a bunch
Well,
of
that's
Blu-rays.
why I'm asking. They've had really bad releases. So
Yeah, so like they have the Japanese language stuff on there. They have like a specific English subtitle track that is not just like the English dub. Just in the text, it is a different translation of the Japanese. So, like, the subtitles are not amazing, but they are better than when you just have, like, dubbed subtitles for the Japanese language track, because that is insanely distracting. So, it's like, yeah, they are good versions of those, the, like, home release versions of those movies. And they've basically all the movies from from 1984 up till now, other than the one from 1984 they have not quite released yet, but they're almost there. All those are basically have now been released in the same format by Sony. They have like some of the movies that they did not have the rights to, other than Biollante, which is a whole different fucking story. They have gotten the rights to and have just like released a whole bunch of these. So that's really nice to have that like consolidated, because before it was so hodgepodge and it was so, well, like I've got this one doesn't have any Japanese language stuff on it, or this one like has is like in full screen and this is the only way this has ever been released and shit like that. It's like they are totally acceptable standard versions of these movies now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Godzilla deserves it.
Yes, definitely does.
Absolutely. So I have been playing a new game.
Okay.
I have been playing I Am Setsuna for the PS4. It came out last week on the PlayStation, and it's on PC as well if you want to play it there. And this is a game by the Tokyo RPG Factory, which is a new division created within Square Enix. It's basically just a small team with the aim of just creating good, solid RPGs in sort of a classical framework.
Yeah.
Not sort of breaking the bank, but also kind of going back to the times of like the early Final Fantasies and Chrono Trigger and things like that, and making games sort of in that mold where we're not having a lot of voice acting and things like that. And I was really curious about this game because just looking at some of the visuals and stuff from Japan, it looked gorgeous. It seemed like it might be a cool story, but I was kind of waiting to hear reviews, and then the reviews came out a few days after the game was released, and they were universally positive. Not all of them were like glowing, although some of them were, but it was enough, and just hearing things of like, ooh, that sounds good to me, that I was curious, and so one night I was kind of going around the PlayStation store looking for things, and I stumbled upon the page for I Am Setsuna, and the trailer started, and I heard about 10 seconds of the music in this game, and I bought it on the spot, just from that, and having read the reviews.
Right.
And started playing it, and I am kind of in love with this game. It is a very, very good JRPG, and maybe it's best described as a mini JRPG, because it's probably like 20 hours tops.
Yeah, that's basically what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. So it is not a gargantuan JRPG, which I am perfectly okay with.
Yeah, obviously people listening to this podcast know that.
Yeah. We're good with long ones, we're good with short ones. Sometimes it's nice to have a shorter one because you can just fit it in and get through it.
Yeah, you don't have to dedicate an entire month of your life to playing Persona.
Yes, so I've been playing it for a couple days now. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I know that because there's a very handy percentage completion counter, and I love that. I wish all games should fucking have that.
Yeah, so you have a good sense of like, am I near the end, or is this game going to pull some weird bullshit like third act twist that's going to make this go 10 hours longer than it needs to?
Exactly, but this game is first and foremost jaw-droppingly gorgeous, both visually and orally. The music is one of the best game soundtracks I have ever heard. It is almost all done as a solo piano soundtrack, and once in a while they have a little other instrumentation, but the piano is the main voice throughout. And because there is no voice acting except some little expressions they do in Japanese during the battles, which all like elementary Japanese, so I can totally follow this game. It's great. Owari danai. That's what one of the main characters says every time. I'm like, I know the word owari.
Yeah.
That means it's over.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, very good job. I'm sure Japanese teachers would be very proud of you.
Yes, I know the word that shows up at the end of every Japanese movie.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And you learn that one pretty quick if you're watching enough Japanese films. That is definitely true.
No, but yeah, no, the music, oh my god. It is achingly gorgeous music. And I guess, I don't know, if somehow you don't like the piano on its own, this maybe might rub you the wrong way, but I happen to like that a lot. And for one, it's just so different as a score to have just a minimalist, basically one instrument. And obviously if you're going to do one instrument, you're probably going to do the piano because that's the basis of all music.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's so minimalist in that way that I love it. But also just the amount that this composer, who, I forget his name at the moment, but it's someone I've not heard of before, gets out of the piano and out of the just sheer amount of music he's written for this. The amount of emotional ground that music covers is immense, and just every moment of this game, I love just hearing the music and having that in this world. And then the visuals are also very, very nice. It's all very sort of painterly, almost looks like watercolors. It happens in this world that is basically dying, so there's a lot of snow, but sometimes you see these little splashes of color, and that can just be breathtaking. It's very simple. I think on PC, I'm guessing anything could run this game, but that does not stop it from being just a very, very beautiful game. Cool. It's sort of like isometric, where it's not quite top-down, but it's like from the side.
Yeah.
And then the characters are in little 3D models. And it's one weird thing, though, where the characters are 3D, and you mostly follow them from the back, so you never really see their faces in 3D. And it's one thing that I feel like 2D games kind of have an advantage in that when you just have it as top-down pixel 2D, you can have it a little more dynamic, where I feel like you see more of the character. Because some of this game is modeled very explicitly on Chrono Trigger, and I was actually playing some of that recently too. And I feel like that's one area where I wish the designs of the characters themselves, just when they show up on the map, were popped a little more. Because when they talk, of course, the dialogue box comes up and you see a very nice anime-looking version of them. Right. And that's how you think of it. Same as like Persona or something. That's how you primarily think of the character.
Yeah, you don't think about the weird sort of pseudo-chibi character models from like Persona 4 when you think of like Yosuke.
Yeah, but even I feel like when it's a tough thing to do those kind of 3D chibi models right, because you want enough of the character to come through, and sometimes I don't think in Setsuna it comes through all the way, but that's a very small complaint. The story of this game also is great, and I feel like it's very unique for really any game I've ever played, because it's very direct and very simple, but also very dark, but not in a way that it feels like you're drowning in the darkness. Like, the basic setup is that you live in this world where... the world exists, and it's sort of dark, it's always snowy, there are monsters everywhere, and to keep the monsters at bay, every 10 years, a girl who has turned 18 from this village is sent to the last lands, where she is sacrificed, and the party comes along with her, and they commit the sacrifice, and that is supposed to keep the monsters at bay. Okay. And things have gotten bad, so they're sending out another sacrifice, and meanwhile, the main player character, Endir, he's basically from a tribe of assassins, and he's been sent to assassinate the sacrifice before she can leave on her journey. And
sounds like a dick move.
Sounds like an absolute dick move, which the Endir realizes because you get there and you stop yourself and you wind up joining Setsuna, the sacrifice, on her journey. It's almost like a little bit like this Tale of Snow White at the beginning, where you're like the huntsman who has to go execute her, and then when he gets there, he can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's very fairy tale-esque in the beginning, I feel like. And that's like the first 20 minutes of the game, so I'm not spoiling it for you.
Yeah, that's just the story setup.
That is the setup. And so from there, though, you have to get Setsuna from that village to the last land. So you're basically going across this world. You're basically going to the ends of the earth, as they believe it to be. And I love that as a setup. It's really smart, because it's very clear A to B thing, but on the way you can kind of tell as many or as few stories as you want, because it's about the towns you pass through and the people you meet and the characters in your party and the characters who join your party, and those little sub-stories are what make the game. There are so many just beautiful little sad stories where it's like the game is this progression of short stories that all have this kind of tragic hook to them, but none of it's all this kind of hopeful tragedy, because... underlying it all, you are on this journey to try to fix things. But fixing things means killing Setsuna probably at the end of the game. And I am not done with the game yet, as I said. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I am so fascinated and excited to see what happens when you actually reach the end.
I've got a theory. What if you were the sacrifice the entire time?
That could be it, I guess. I don't know.
Setsuna fucking throws you on the plaque and just cuts your heart out.
But it is really amazing as you play through this game how well the story is fleshed out, how well each of these characters comes into their own as a character, and how much each of those stories just moves you and makes you feel. It is a very intensely emotional story. I think a very well told story, and with that music and those visuals, oh god, it's a real experience playing through this, and I love that about it, because I think if you look back at classic JRPGs from the era this game is kind of paying homage to, it's very rare that you get a game that is kind of committed to a tone like this. I think people remember the high epic nature of old Final Fantasy games, and I do not say this to disparage them. I love old Final Fantasy games, but they are often more comedic than anything. I mean,
they go off the rails at different points in their stories for sure.
Yes, and I think that doesn't necessarily hurt them, but Final Fantasy IV, people just kind of forget about the whole part with Palom and Porom and things like that, and obviously dark things happen with those characters ultimately in the game. But,
or like the fact that you go to the fucking moon at the end of that game. It is something where I really like a bunch of those old Final Fantasy games, but it is very clear that they are very early stories told in that medium, and there are very interesting things about them, but at the same time they show their age in a lot of ways.
Yes, and so I Am Setsuna does feel very different from those. And the game this one is compared to, in its own marketing, by the way, is Chrono Trigger. Yeah. And what I would say, if you're a big fan of Chrono Trigger, is kind of be wary of that to some extent, because it is Chrono Trigger in so much as it uses the same battle system with some modifications, but it is essentially the Chrono Trigger battle system. So the monsters are on the map, you see them, you run into them, it's all active time battle.
Right.
And I love the Chrono Trigger battle system, and I'm kind of sad that more games never used that. So it's nice to have that here. It's a really good battle system. The kind of modifications they've made, I think, are very smart and fun. But outside of that, I have very little I would compare this to Chrono Trigger with. It is so tonally different. Artistically, I mean, Chrono Trigger is a Akira Toriyama designed game. Speaking of Dragon Ball stuff, it looks like it's in the Dragon Ball universe or something, and it has a similar kind of tone to it. That is not what this game is at all, and it really is its own thing. So it uses that, it uses Gil, it has some of those Square Enix vocabulary things, but it is its own game. And I think, to me, that's a great thing about it. Because, if anything, what I was worried about before this came out is it was just going to be kind of a watered-down rehash.
Yeah, or like a cheap nostalgia play, and not anything more than that.
Or, frankly, there's a lot of modern RPGs that kind of go back to old RPG tropes, but I feel like are very kind of empty in their actual mechanics. Like, a game recently I could not get into was Child of Light, which was the game that Ubisoft made, and was kind of supposed to be not quite like this, but it was supposed to be an RPG with like this kind of turn-based battle and all that.
Yeah.
And that game was very beautiful, but kind of other than that, very empty to me, and I could not get through it.
Yeah, I agree.
This Setsuna, I think, has some issues with difficulty curve, where sometimes it's too easy, and then it spikes, and it's too easy. Although, to be fair, that is not a new thing for JRPGs.
No, yeah, that is that. I feel like that is every single JRPG I've ever played, even like the ones I love. You go through like a dungeon or something where it's like, I'm breezing through every single enemy in this dungeon, and then you hit the boss and it's like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in this entire fucking game.
Right, so it's not like this is a new problem, but there is depth to it. I definitely am on my toes thinking through most of the battles, and it's one of the great things about the whole Chrono Trigger battle system is it's designed so that you don't grind.
Right.
It's designed so that each battle kind of gives you a good amount of XP. You basically go through a dungeon or an area once, maybe if you have to go back through it or something, but you're not just going around in circles battling and battling and battling.
Right.
And because of that, each battle can have a little more oomph to it. So that really works to this game's advantage too. But this is an absolutely excellent game. It will probably be on my year-end top 10, although I don't know if anything I've played so far will be, because this year is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like that is an insane proclamation to make at this point.
Yeah, there's still so much coming out.
Yeah.
We just learned about. We'll talk about that later. There's more than even we thought. But yeah, I really love this. It is definitely the game soundtrack of the year so far to me, and this has been a really good year for game soundtracks.
I feel like I need to remind you that Doom had a soundtrack, and it was pretty fucking good.
So did Uncharted 4. So did Digimon.
Yeah.
A lot of good. Fire Emblem If has a fucking 8-disc soundtrack.
You have that goddamn soundtrack.
I do.
You've used it as the wallpaper in your room. You have so many discs.
Indeed. I use it as coasters.
Yeah.
All the CDs. Because I'm not listening to the CDs.
Oh, yeah. You fucking rip those things and then you just play Frisbee with your dog.
Right. That would not be good. She would just rip those into pieces. Anyway, but so it's a damn good game. At $40, the price point is $40. I don't know if that's a fair price point yet. I think for a 20-hour JRPG, I'm more than happy with that.
Inside is like $20, and I beat that game in about 3 hours. So
yeah, I can understand some people would look at that and balk a little bit, because it doesn't look like a modern RPG where you pay your 30 or 40 or 50 and you get just endless gameplay. I don't know if that is this, but to me it's totally fair, especially when you think like that's what you pay for a Vita or 3DS game.
Yeah. I think $40 seems fair to me as someone on the outside who hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, so I would totally recommend it. Very, very good game.
Cool. And I'll probably pick that up at some point and put some time into it.
I was playing it now because I feel like this is the moment to finish anything up, because once
No Man's Sky hits, like that's when
shit hits the fan.
Yeah, that's when it all goes.
Yes.
Early August.
So, and I have not gotten through a ton of Dragon Ball this week. I will just tell you guys. I watched another 14 or 15 episodes, and I'm deep in the long, long fight with Cell on the islands where he goes from imperfect Cell to perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's long in a bad way. It's just it's long because a lot happened. That's like 2 volumes in the graphic novels, so it's not
because it has all the stuff with like Gohan and Goku in the hyperbolic time chamber and all that shit to cover.
Yeah. This is not a case where I feel like the anime made it unnecessarily long or anything. It's a long part of the story.
Yeah.
But I'm still in there, loving it. But we actually did a lot of prep for this podcast this week. We had movies to see and stuff, so I did not have a ton of time to watch Dragon Ball. But still loving it.
Cool.
You want to hit some news?
Let's hit some news because there's a lot of it to go through.
All right, and then we're going to hit Star Trek at the end for the spoiler portion. All right, first piece of news. I thought you'd love this, Sean. Funimation, of all companies, has acquired Shin Godzilla, which is what they're calling it, not Godzilla Resurgence. Where did that name even come from?
I don't know. It was at first its original like official English title, because oftentimes that happens where like a Japanese property, when it is made, it will have like a official English title assigned to it, kind of.
Yeah, but apparently they're not using it. They're just calling it Shin Godzilla, which is in Japan it's I guess Shin Gojira, but same thing. And they will be releasing it in theaters and on DVD later this year. The theatrical release will come before the end of the year. They have said they have not confirmed a date yet, but knowing how Funimation does these things, I would imagine it'll be like maybe a couple-day-long engagement.
Yeah.
With, I can't imagine they'll dub this, but, subtitled version.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, back in the day they might have, but not anymore. So they'll have that, and it'll probably be limited. So if you want to see it, make sure you do. But it will probably be a nice wide engagement, so it will come to your town or locality. We love Funimation, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I think they do some really awesome stuff, especially nowadays with like localizing stuff and bringing it over here, and like just knowing that there is someone out there who has the rights and has like a plan and stuff set up for releasing this movie over here, just like is like a weight off my shoulders, because there's something where it's like, I don't want this movie to have been out in Japan for like a year before I have an opportunity to see it, because that would just be kind of annoying. So yeah, I'm really happy that they've got it. Like, I know that they will like do it what needs to be done to it and make it available and everything.
Yes, you always want a foreign film to go to a company that knows how to release a foreign film.
Yeah, exactly.
And luckily, Funimation knows how to release Japanese stuff.
Yes.
So they are, I feel like Funimation made a bigger deal of it a couple years ago, trying to do more live action stuff. I wonder if this will be the first step in an initiative to really push that. Because there's a lot of room. Most Japanese live action stuff just does not come out here. Yeah. Crunchyroll has that section for dramas, but it's a kind of smaller section of their site, obviously. Yeah. So that would be interesting.
But, yeah, I think that would be awesome if they got more into this business. And I'm just happy that, I will be able to very quickly after this movie is released in Japan, be able to keep my like personal identity of a guy who has seen every Godzilla movie that's been released.
Exactly, it's stressful.
Yeah, I mean, because I have been that for years now. And it's like, I don't know what it's going to be like in my heart of hearts, knowing for a couple of months that there's a God that, like, I can't say that anymore about myself when I meet people.
Because when was Final Wars? 2004?
2004.
12 years.
I mean, well, there were a couple of Godzilla movies I hadn't seen when I saw Final Wars. So I probably, the last one I saw that I had not seen before was the Godzilla 1984. Because that's one I just have like a fucking shitty like bootleg copy of, because there's like no other way to get it, and I probably saw that in like 2011 or 2012 or something. So
okay, so even then, still been a long time.
Yeah, it's been several years now.
Awesome. Another thing we're both very excited about: Gravity Rush 2.
Yes,
got a date. And I'm very surprised it's coming out this year. December 2nd, 2016.
I am so happy that it is coming out past the holiday rush, because that is a game that could be lost in that craziness so easily, and I think them just like sidestepping it and just saying, yeah, fuck that, motherfucker. Early December. Mm-hmm. No other game is coming out early December in the United States.
Yeah, the only other one that's on my calendar is the South Park game, but there's obviously not going to be any real overlap there.
Yeah, those are about as different as two video games could possibly be.
But I was really thinking this was one that I would imagine would have gotten like a January, February date in the U.S., so I'm happy it's coming out this year. This is one that I think both of us would say is probably going to be a Game of the Year candidate.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like after the Gravity Rush remastered, and then watching some of the like the demo stuff they put out at E3, I am really excited for this game.
Oh yeah, I jumped on and pre-ordered this the moment I heard about the date. Yeah, I cannot wait.
Yeah, there was also some other news that came out with it of them doing, which seems like it's becoming a fairly common thing, that they're like basically producing a anime OVA that's like a in between Gravity Rush and Gravity Rush 2 thing. That's cool. That's similar to what they're doing with Final Fantasy 15, and they've done like 2 episodes of that, and they're both pretty good. So.
Oh, I didn't know they were out yet. Okay.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, the first 2 episodes are out. I think it's like 6 total for the Final Fantasy 15 one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant
no. The Gravity Rush ones are not out. I think those are coming out like around when the game is released.
I know about the Final Fantasy ones; those are good.
Yes,
but yes.
Yeah. So I am as someone who just very recently played through all of Gravity Rush 1. I am very excited that like all this stuff is dropping right now.
Absolutely, and I think it's probably going to be the last game either of us play this year. So that's going to be a great way to just send this historically great year of gaming out.
Yeah, and it's just like the idea of an early December release for that game just seems so perfect for the kind of game that Gravity Rush is in terms of like the tone. It's just like
with it snowing outside.
Yeah, just like a nice, quiet evening at home to play Gravity Rush is like, that is the perfect setting, you know?
It's like the most relaxed open world style game I've ever played.
It really is.
I love it. All right. News that interests me, at least, Stardew Valley, the sensation that has taken everyone who has a PC, coming to Mac and Linux July 29th.
Cool.
So by the time we do our next podcast, I will have played a little Stardew Valley, probably.
Cool.
Because I've wanted to play it on my Mac, and I know it's coming to consoles later this year, but that will be during Go time,
Yeah.
and I want to get some of that in before then. And
Yeah, Stardew Valley does not seem like a go time kind of game.
No.
That also seems like a December would be a good time to
Yes.
get that game out kind of game.
So I'm excited to try that when it comes to Mac, because I've been jealous of just seeing all the awesomeness from that game.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Big one for me. So Persona 5
Yes.
coming out soon in Japan,
Yes, very soon.
which means Atlas has been, I don't know if you follow their YouTube channel,
A little
just
bit, yeah.
like 10 videos a day for Persona 5.
Yeah.
And I have not watched most of it.
Yeah, I've been avoiding watching those videos
Okay.
at this point.
Then I won't say anything spoiler or anything. I'll
Okay.
just say they did put out the opening movie.
I watched the opening
Okay.
movie because that's the opening
okay.
movie. I'm fine
I
with seeing
didn't,
that.
right. That was the greatest 2 minutes of anything ever, right, Sean?
Yes, they know how to cut a fucking video game opening, dude.
I've watched it like 5 times.
Yeah.
That's the best Persona opening.
Yeah, because I think also seems like it is the first time we've heard like the fully produced version of the theme song as well. So
Yep. I mean, this is just exactly what's you're gonna have when you boot the disc.
yeah,
Good God, that song is amazing.
yeah, that song is really good. The animation is incredible. Like,
Oh man, and it's like, why do I have to wait February?
Yeah.
Every other game, just cancel yourselves, and then I'll play Persona 5.
you have to be strong.
I know.
Jonathan. You have to
It's
be strong.
tough. Do you just? I feel like I'm reaching for my Vita to like replay Persona 4 while I'm watching that.
You can't do that, Jonathan.
I know.
Think about I Am Setsuna. Think about Stardew Valley. Think about all the other games you need to play. You cannot start replaying Persona 4 right now.
I know. Maybe in January.
Maybe in January.
Maybe
yeah.
in January. No, you already know, as you, the listener, that we are very excited for Persona 5, and that just increased it. So,
Yeah.
But, yeah, and just seeing some other clips, just like pictures that have come out, it's kind of cool to see a little more of just the style of the game coalesce.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, here's how they're doing dialogue and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not watched any of those big videos. And, of course, that's more for the Japan audience, which is about to play it. So,
Yeah.
fucking Japanese people.
Yeah, those motherfuckers. What have they ever done? What have they done to deserve this? They'd only made the game.
Yeah, it's weird to be jealous of the country that, of course, deserves to play it first because it's their game. But yeah, anyway, that's exciting. Sean, I bet you like this news. Rise of the Tomb Raider announced for the PS4 October 11th.
Yeah, what are they calling the
20th anniversary celebration, I think?
Yeah, they felt like it feels like every game publisher has now decided that they need to come up with a different name for every time they do this kind of thing of either like remaster something or release like the game of the like you can't call it the Game of the Year edition, you can't call it like the remastered version. It's the definitive edition. It's the Nathan Drake version. It's like it's just Tomb Raider Game of the Year version, guys. Come on. Don't make this hard on us.
Looks cool, though. It's going to have all the DLC and everything. If October weren't an insanely busy enough month for games, I would even consider replaying it on the PS4 because I played it on Xbox, but probably won't wind up doing that, at least initially, but I'm really glad it's finally coming to PS4.
Yeah, that's a game I've been anticipating for a while, even though I had my adventure with the first Tomb Raider Definitive Edition that's just been chronicled on the earlier episode of this podcast. I'm really excited for that. But it's definitely a game I'm going to wrap back around on after the end of the year because fucking I'm not going to have time to fit that in.
That's 11 days after Final Fantasy 15. We will still be playing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. This was just interesting. Confirmation that Dead Rising 4 will be on PS4.
Oh, right, yeah.
That did come out. Can you think of another franchise that has like just hopped back and forth? And,
Dead Rising does. It's got like. It just kind of seems to go to whoever's paying it the most money at any given moment. Because it's started as like an Xbox 360 exclusive, but then they put out the Wii version for the original Dead Rising.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is like Chop Till You Drop or something. Edition. And then like Dead Rising 2 was like wider platform, and then Dead Rising 3 was just on the Xbox One. And then now Dead Rising 4 is multi-platform again. It's weird.
Very strange, because I think a lot of people, if they weren't paying attention, would just assume, because it was a launch title for the Xbox One, that this is like a Microsoft first-party thing.
Yeah.
Because it's so essential to all the original Xbox One marketing.
Yeah. I mean, because it is the one good launch game the Xbox One had that was exclusive.
Right. So it's multi-platform again. I just think it's a weird game of hopscotch they're playing.
Yeah, because that also came out with an announcement of that they are remastering Dead Rising 1 and Dead Rising 2 for modern consoles because...
Okay, yeah.
Why not?
I
might play those again. I really love Dead Rising 1. That's a really great game. So if they Depending on if they add some stuff to it, I might go back and play that again.
I might go try to hunt down the original Wii version and play that.
Yeah, I hear that's the version to play. I think it's probably better when you don't have tons of zombies on the screen because the Wii can't handle it. I think having about a dozen zombies on screen at once, it just makes for a better, more clear gaming experience. Okay. That's what I've heard.
Other than Metroid Prime Trilogy, is there any game that people have said is better on Wii?
No, I don't think, I never really heard back in the day that, the Call of Duty 4 on Wii, I don't think people were really into that. I don't think the multiplayer scene ever took off.
Yes.
I'm not sure, no.
All right. Now we're into the big Comic-Con stuff. First night of Comic-Con, we heard about new Sonic games.
Yes, from the Sonic 25th anniversary insane live stream thing they did.
Even though the games are coming out in the 26th anniversary.
Yeah.
Because they didn't quite have their shit together, but... These, to be fair to Sonic Team, these were fun announcements.
Yes, these were not two Sonic Boom games, and that makes me very happy.
Let's go into them in order. The first one was Sonic Mania.
Yep.
This is a game co-developed by several smaller, sort of almost independent studios that have experience basically doing 2D platformer kind of retro stuff.
Yeah.
And it's basically a remix kind of game. It'll have some old levels, it'll have some brand new levels, but it looks like a Genesis-era Sonic the Hedgehog 2D side-scroller. It's got Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles.
Yep.
And I thought it looked pretty cool.
It looks fucking awesome to me. It looks like what Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was always supposed to be. That it's instead of it just being this weird, awkward controlling, 2D, 2.5D, 3D fucking mess, just make a game that's in the spirit of those Genesis Sonic games. Or really, the visuals reminded me of, Sonic CD2. You know, it's definitely... It looks way more accomplished than anything that could have been on the Genesis, but it doesn't look like a game that was made for the PS4. It doesn't look like Sonic the Hedgehog 4. It doesn't go for the 3D models. It is definitely sprite-based and everything like that. The music sounded really good. Obviously, it's hard to tell without putting your hands on it, but just looking at it, it looked like it moved the right way. It definitely did not look like it had the problem that Sonic 4 did of, just cutting your momentum and letting you stop on a dime, which is not what Sonic is about, because that destroys your sense of speed. It looked like there was good momentum to everything. The levels looked inventive.
There's that new move, the downward dash.
It allows you to sort of do a ground pound that also transitions into a spin dash. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
A smart extra way to sort of maneuver around a 2D Sonic level. The people that are working on it, I forget what his name is, but one of the guys is the guy who went back and just restored a bunch of old Sonic stuff. He's the guy who's responsible for getting the Sonic CD version on the 360 and PS3 digitally and stuff like that. And that's a amazing version of that game that allows you to switch between the American Japanese music and stuff like that. He handled a bunch of mobile ports for Sonic games.
Christian Whitehead?
Yes, that's his name. Yeah, that dude knows his Sonic and loves the franchise. And just seeing his logo for his studio right before, at the beginning of that trailer, that was just okay, if that guy's on it, that dude will do right by this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks so good. It looks like kind of exactly what we were asking for to some degree when we did our Sonic podcast. We were thinking more in terms of a big 3D reboot, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But this is a back to basics, but not just slavish remake. Because when we saw those glimpses of the new levels, they looked really fun and different, too.
Yeah.
He's in a car and things like that. So I'm very excited for this. I love that it'll also include Tails and Knuckles, because that's one of the other things I don't like about their other back-to-basics Sonic games, is they forget that Tails and Knuckles were in the original Sonic games.
Yeah, exactly. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is the only one that Sonic is the only dude there,
Yeah. So this looks like exactly, I think, what we'd like, and it's going to be on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and the NX. And I want to mention that maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because the other Sonic game, they also talked about being on the NX. A bunch of other games have said, we're going to be on the NX. It is kind of interesting to me that even though we don't know what the NX is, people are just openly saying we're going to be on it. And that does seem like a good thing for Nintendo to have percolating out there, that non-Nintendo people are saying we're going to be on the system.
Yeah, even if it is just Sonic games, because the Sonic games are going to be on the Nintendo platform these days. That's how it works.
I forget what other games I'm thinking of, but it's more than just Sonic that said we're going to be on NX.
Yeah, but it is it is kind of weird to just see that at the bottom of the screen where it's that's we don't even know what the actual name of the console is yet, guys.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's going to be on it's I don't think that they're lying, but it is really weird to see. It's that's just the production name. That's not even an official logo or anything.
Just I will say this: the fact that multiple games from like third-party studios are saying we're going to be on the NX makes me a little more confident that it's not going to have some weird-ass controller that's like just a touch panel or something.
Yeah, it's like the controller isn't just like a hat you wear or something with like 2 buttons on it.
Yeah, because if you can easily just put your game on the NX, that probably means they have a regular controller.
Yeah,
which would
or
be nice.
they just are going to ask you to use your like Wii U Pro controller, and this is like if you want to play normal people games, we've got a controller for you.
Alrighty, the other game they announced doesn't have a name yet, but it's called Project Sonic. It's going to be late 2017, and it is essentially Sonic Generations 2 from what we saw.
Yeah, it's basically because the trailer was like some sort of like giant Eggman robot is attacking a city, and Sonic, like modern 3D Sonic, is there, and he's running, and then eventually, like 2D Sonic that looks like the 2D Sonic from Sonic Generations like comes in, and they have to team up and fight the robots. So Sonic Generations 2 looking.
Yep, and this was much more of just an announcement trailer. Sonic Mania looks like for a game that's pretty much done, and it's coming soon.
Yeah.
It's like early 2017. This is late 2017, clearly in development. We didn't really see any gameplay, but hey, show me a little Sonic Generations love. I'll be happy.
I mean, that's what I have been saying since fucking Sonic Generations came out, is make another one of these games. And I don't care if it's like, because it seems that based on like the trailer, it does not look like they are saying that it's going to be the same setup of like remastering classic Sonic levels, because you don't need to do that. But it's just like, but the same style of gameplay, like do that and make it better. Like, I don't know why they had to fuck around with like Sonic Lost Worlds and Sonic Boom. I guess like Sonic Boom was a different developer, so maybe they've been making this since that Wii game or that Wii U game. But hey, they're making a Sonic Generations 2 or something like that. Thank God. It seems like someone at Sega is sitting there going like, hey, you know that one Sonic game we made that everyone basically really liked? Let's do more of those ones instead of these other ones.
Exactly. I mean, it was really cool to have these 2 Sonic announcements come out back to back and be like, wow, there are 2 Sonic games coming out next year that I am actively looking forward to.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see them not be so dedicated to the Sonic Boom redesigns and everything related to that, because I just hate everything having to do with that. I think it all looks terrible. So, like, seeing proper Knuckles, the motherfucking Echidna, up there with the Sonic Mania instead of that weird, like, mutated, deformed version they have on Sonic Boom, that was just like, okay, thank God they're not trying to go full in on that stuff, because that just stuff seems terrible.
Well, and clearly on Project Sonic, we only saw Sonic, but he looks like Sonic, so it's not...
He didn't have his stupid fucking scarf and athletic tape.
Yes, so Sonic is back, and happy to have him on the horizon.
Yeah, it seems like one game that seems like Sonic Mania seems like a fucking slam dunk. Like, that game's at least going to be good. I have no doubt about that. And then, like, this Sonic Generations 2 kind of project is at least promising. It looks like it has potential in a way that the last couple Sonic games never really seemed like.
I mean, it's even funny, on the Project Sonic trailer, they start by saying, from the developers who brought you Sonic Colors
and Sonic Generations, which are the last 2 good Sonic games.
Yes. Very, very beloved. So definitely looking forward to it. All right. Comic-Con proper got started. There are plenty of things we could talk about, but I'm kind of distilling it to the things I know we are interested in.
Yeah.
So Sean, stop me if there's anything I'm forgetting.
Okay.
But the first one to me was the Brian Fuller Star Trek series for CBS. That's for CBS's app, All Access, which is coming early next year. Has a title, is Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
They also put out like a little 1.5-minute sizzle reel of just... Basically, it's the ship and like a model of the ship. It's called the Discovery. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I didn't see the sizzle reel.
It looks cool. It's the ship looks. It's like a Star Trek ship, but it's not just the Enterprise.
Okay.
And I was kind of happy to see that.
Yeah.
It looks like a neat upgrade to what Star Trek ships look like. Star Trek Discovery sounds like a totally respectable title, and it's just nice to be reminded that this thing is coming.
Yeah. Cool.
I think they're starting shooting any day now because they announced the pilot director and everything. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Then Warner Brothers had a long press conference.
Yeah.
And they did a bunch of DC stuff. So where do we start on this?
It's a lot of stuff.
I'm going to start with the littlest thing. They put out yet another trailer for Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I only made it about 30 seconds into this thing.
Yeah, like, I watched the whole thing. When I was done, I wasn't sure if I watched the right trailer or not, because it just seemed like I couldn't tell if it was a new trailer.
It's basically like a music video with footage from the other trailers, right?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
So I don't know. I have an active theory here because they've been doing also like character-based TV spots, which is totally normal.
Yeah.
That's fine. But they did one for the Joker. And I watched that one, and it's the exact same 2 or 3 Joker lines from every ad.
Right.
Is Joker only in like 2 scenes of this movie?
I don't know, dude. Like,
either they are showing admirable marketing restraint in showing you nothing of Jared Leto's performance, or he is barely in the movie.
Yeah, or like, I feel like he has to be the villain of this movie at this point.
Right.
Like there's nobody else. There's just fucking no one else it could possibly be. He has to be the villain of the movie. I have no idea how that works out, particularly with the Harley Quinn character and with the actual footage we've been seeing. But it just seems like logically there's, like, who else is the fucking villain of this movie?
Also, I want to say this. The Joker trailer has a quick shot, and I guess this is something we hadn't seen before, of Joker and Harley kissing and making out.
Yeah.
And I will say, they smooch and stuff in the animated show every once in a while. It's more like peck on the cheek and stuff. And I've never really thought in animation of like the ages of those characters. In live action, when it's Margot Robbie, who is like a year or two older than us, who's like 25,
yeah,
and Jared Leto, who is in his like late 40s, it did creep me out. And I also don't think I want to see the Joker and Harley Quinn like full on tonguing each other,
because that doesn't seem like that does not seem like the relationship to me. Like no. Regardless of like whether or not like they couldn't do that because it was a good cartoon for kids, like it felt like the dynamic of the relationship was that like Joker doesn't give a shit about Harley.
I think the Joker's asexual.
Like he's just manipulating her and controlling her for fun. Like that's always seemed to be clearly their relationship. Like if anything, there is way more sexual tension between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy in the cartoon than there ever was between her and the Joker, because the Joker was never interested. Like the Joker only cares about Batman and that's it. Like that's always been the dynamic of their relationship. So it is like seeing them have a physical relationship just seems wrong to me.
And it's just weird because those are the two characters I'm really interested in seeing in the Suicide Squad movie. And I just realized watching it's like, can you do that in live action? It's always been my question with Harley Quinn. And Margot Robbie seems like she's kind of perfect for it, but I just wonder if those other things... I don't know. I'm curious for this movie for a lot of reasons. I don't know if I have any faith it'll be good, but I am curious about it.
Yeah, like for me, like I've gotten to the point with the marketing where it's just entered that zone of like, I have no like understanding of if this movie's going to be good or not. Like it's just, I feel like the trailers have destroyed any opinion I can hold of the movie. And not even that they're really bad trailers, it's just kind of like, I feel like I have been so non-informed by the trailers for so long now, I just can't form a pre-opinion about it.
Well, and we can't forget about how we were introduced to the movie last Comic-Con, and I went back and rewatched this trailer just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
The original Comic-Con trailer for this was that super dour one, like the most dour, dark, sad trailer for anything ever. Schindler's List looked happier in trailer form.
It was a movie called Suicide Squad for a very different reason than it was called Suicide Squad.
It's all slow motion and dark shots and this really sad rendition of a pop song and everything, and like Joker's in it for like a second saying something ominous. And it's so funny that we've gone from that to where we are now, where it's all bright colors.
Yeah, where it seems like every single trailer, they pump up the saturation on the logo by a good like 20%.
Yep, and it's like Ballroom Blitz is the song for everything, and it's who knows? The movie could be good, might not be. I'm at this point I'm curious, but I also don't want to see any more advertising.
Yeah.
And we're 2 weeks out, so whatever.
Yeah.
But all right, anyway, that was not a big part of their show. They showed the Wonder Woman trailer.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good trailer.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting looking movie. Like I'm curious about like I've always found the decision to make it set during World War I a bit weird, because I've never really associated that with Wonder Woman in any way, but it seems like an interesting way to differentiate the movie at the very least.
Oh, absolutely, and especially because World War I is not something that, again, we've talked about this before with like Battlefield 1, is not explored much in this kind of media, and it seems smart, it seems interesting. I like the look of Chris Pine in this as kind of the supporting
Steve
character.
Taylor, I think that's the character's name.
And I continue to think Gal Gadot, like just in her body language and the way she holds herself and her screen presence, looks perfect for this part, and we get more of a hint in this trailer of her actually playing the character than we did in 3 hours of Batman v Superman. And so I am very excited to see her play that as a character and not a model, which is all she was in Batman v Superman. She's there to make poses. And this trailer, she already gets to do a little more. I think the costume looks really cool. It's very colorful. It's not the just dour red leather from Batman v Superman. And so I liked that.
I like that they sort of touch on the trailer a bit on her origins and the mythological Greek aspects of it. Like she talked about like Zeus a little bit and stuff like that. I like that they're not completely shying away from that stuff. I'm not sure if they're going to actually like personify any of the Greek pantheon or anything like that in the movie, which is a big part of her supporting cast in the comics. But at least like acknowledging it is something that I would not necessarily take for granted for a DC superhero movie at this point.
But this is easily, to me, the most confident trailer for any DC movie so far.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's got a clear story, it's got a clear character arc, the visuals are really cool and big scale, and I think it's got a neat visual signature to it. This is Patty Jenkins directing, who has done, I think her big movie is Monster, which Charlize Theron won an Oscar for. But anyway, I think it's been a while since she directly directed anything for film. But I think, it's the first major female superhero movie, first superhero movie directed by a woman, and it looks like a good movie. So all of that is nice. And it was nice to have some genuine excitement where I feel like if anything's going to turn the DC ship around, to me it's that movie. And maybe it'll turn it around for one movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like saying it would turn the ship around seems a bit much for like the Wonder Woman movie, but like if there's going to be one of these that is probably going to be a pretty good movie, it is the Wonder Woman movie based on the marketing.
The other thing I like is it's so detached by being in World War I from anything else. It can just be its own thing. Like, if everything else continues to be terrible and this is good, it probably won't matter.
Yeah.
Because even if they do the Captain America thing and we end with like 5 minutes of her and Bruce Wayne, you can just turn the movie off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Her and Bruce Wayne out, I don't know, serial killing or something.
I mean, that is what they do. Like, but at the very least, Wonder Woman is a hero character I am totally fine with killing some people because she's a fucking Amazonian warrior. Like, she fights with a sword and shit. Like, she can kill some people. She's not Batman. So if she guts a couple of motherfuckers in this, that's fine.
Yes. And I like my favorite shot in the trailer was probably her on the World War I battlefield, which I think that speaks to the skill of what we saw in the trailer. That's an image that would be very hard to pull off, especially because she's in a very colorful version of the costume there, and I think it actually looked very cool.
Yeah, so I think they have done a very good version of the costume that I feel like it has been done here and there. That I like when they get away from the Wonder Woman onesie kind of thing and make it look a bit more like it is actual ceremonial armor, which is I think a good lore justification for why she is dressed like that, where she has the leather pleat skirt and stuff like that. That is actual Greek armor. I like that they're going with that kind of vibe instead of it being like the old Wonder Woman TV show or something.
Yeah, this is the one DC movie I can say I am without reservation looking forward to.
Yeah, me too.
So that's nice. Justice League.
That was an interesting...
we should say, they are still shooting.
Yeah.
They are nowhere near done shooting this thing.
Yeah.
There are obviously no effects. They had to pick shots that don't have any work to be done on them. And I don't know if this is a trailer so much as just like a 3-minute sizzle reel. I'm pretty sure I know what you think, but go ahead.
I just thought it was weird. I didn't quite know what to make of it more than anything else.
There were moments I liked very much, and moments that felt exceptionally flop sweaty.
Yeah.
In terms of we're funny now! Get it?
Uh-huh.
Bruce Wayne smiles. Get it?
Yeah.
And to be fair, I'm glad they're letting Ben Affleck smile. Mm-hmm. He should be allowed to smile.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne smiles.
Sometimes. He's a pretty grim dude most of the time.
He's a grim dude, but he does get to smile once in a while.
Sure, yeah.
That's okay. I think there were things like some of the shots of Aquaman here. That is the role Jason Momoa was born to play.
Sure.
And I like that. The shot of him with the ocean crashing over him. Can't deny. Cool looking shot.
Yeah.
The scene with the Flash. Ezra Miller looks like a really good Flash to me. Looks like a good Barry Allen.
Yeah.
That is a scene that got pretty flop sweaty in its humor to me.
Yeah. It just felt... It's part of the problem is, I think Barry Allen in the comics as a character does not have a lot of distinguishing traits, but he did not read as the Flash very much to me as, a character in that scene. It's a very small amount to try to judge that on, but I just thought there's something a little bit weird about how he was playing it.
I will say they're going with the weird loner angle, and at least what I know of the Flash, which is primarily the Grant Gustin TV series, but that draws on so much Flash lore that I feel like I've learned a lot.
Yeah,
he's a guy who naturally attracts people to him.
Yeah, he's the fun, charismatic one that everybody loves the Flash. Even the Flash's villains love the Flash. There's a great scene in a Justice League cartoon where the Flash and Batman are investigating some sort of crime that involves the Trickster, and so they walk into a bar where the Trickster is, and Batman's about to like grab him and start interrogating him, and Flash is like, "Hey, calm down, man," and he sits down with the Trickster. He's like, "Hey, buddy, have you been taking your pills?" And he just has a conversation with the Trickster, and just as his buddy, and like asks him where like this like suitcase or whatever they're looking for is. It's like, to me, that is what I think of when I think of the Flash. He is the bright, optimistic, charismatic one out of all of them.
And to be fair, I think some of that does shine through with Ezra Miller here.
Sure,
he is clearly the guy who wants to be there to have fun and be the nice, heroic person.
Yeah.
And I think he looks the part to me. I like the look of him there. And, you know, it's tough because Grant Gustin is obviously in my head as the Flash right now because he's on a TV series, 22 episodes a year. But, you know, Ezra Miller, I think, has the right build for this and everything. And I like him as an actor. So that was nice. And...
And we saw a couple of very brief shots of a black guy who I guess was supposed to be Cyborg.
Yeah, I didn't do
at some
there.
point in the movie. That just
There's
like,
that.
I feel like ever since they tried to make Cyborg a Justice League member in the New 52, they like have just never done anything with that character. Like he's just sort of always there.
Yeah,
it feels that, and maybe that's just partially because like his scenes are going to require more effects because he's Cyborg. But it just felt a little bit glaring. That's like when you get a good look at Batman and Wonder Woman, and then you get introduced to Flash, and you get introduced to Aquaman, and Cyborg's kind of there.
Also, here's the two weirdest things about this trailer, though. One is it is a Justice League announcement trailer with no Superman in it.
There is a pretty glaring
omission there. Which, again... And especially because so much of this trailer feels like a tonal reboot that it could just be, we're forgetting everything else and we're just making a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Just Superman's alive. He's fun again. Batman isn't a raging lunatic. We're good to go, right? And then the other thing is, Bruce Wayne going around and building the Justice League makes sense on a plot level. Having it be Bruce Wayne in that way, especially because he's not Batman in any of these scenes, is strange to me. I feel like he would come to the Flash as Batman. Does that make sense?
Instead of just exposing his secret identity right away.
Yeah, like, and I can understand, like, in the Aquaman scene, he's investigating, so he might be Bruce Wayne. That's a different thing. He's kind of asking around. But when he's going to the Flash's place, it's like, that's just a tad strange. And it's not necessarily a problem, but, like, tonally for the purposes of the trailer. And again... They're cutting this together to try to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
This movie is a year and a half out. This is not the time to do a trailer, but I felt like they probably felt like they had to.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a better ad than anything Batman v Superman had.
Yes, I will definitely agree with that.
There is no scene in that trailer that is anywhere near as bad as anything in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
So, that's nice.
Yeah, That is a good way to look at it. It's none of that stuff was as bad as, especially like the early trailers for Batman v Superman.
And look, I do kind of feel like the best case scenario for this Justice League movie is it's fine and a little awkward. And because the worst case scenario is it's Batman v Superman 2. It looks like we're avoiding the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I do feel like there probably isn't a best case scenario where it's genuinely great, but maybe we can do the one that's just kind of awkward and has some fun things and fun performances, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, although, like, we have only seen very brief snippets of what is clearly the beginning parts of the movie where he's assembling the team.
But I just feel like that combined with their clear message on all the set report stuff is they're trying to go in a very consciously different direction. I mean, even the aspect ratio is different on this. Like, the whole thing looks different. It's crazy, but...
We'll see how it pans out. How are they going to handle bringing Superman back? How are they going to handle fucking Steppenwolf, who's going to be the villain?
I forgot, yeah.
What is he going to look like? Is it going to be another ending scene that is just like a bunch of CGI barf that they pretend is an action sequence?
They still have not, to my knowledge, cast Steppenwolf. And they're still shooting this thing. So maybe it's just something where they're going to do it all in post, which does not it does not fill me with confidence. You probably should cast your villain while you're filming the movie, but...
just fucking hire Andy Serkis if it's just going to be a CGI dude. He's good at that stuff.
I mean, it can work. To my knowledge, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't hire Bradley Cooper to do Rocket until after they were done, but, I mean, they had actor Sean Gunn on set playing Rocket. They knew what it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's not a mocap kind of thing. Steppenwolf probably would, if he's all CGI, should be a mocap kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's because he's not an actual wolf, despite what the name suggests.
No, he never has been.
Yes, it's too bad. Nor is he a heavy metal guitarist.
No.
If I'm not mistaken.
No.
Okay. He sounds like either a wolf or a heavy metal guitarist.
He does. He sounds like a heavy metal band, like
Yes,
not like the guitarist himself.
Okay.
Like I can totally see like Steppenwolf in that kind of like metal font over like a river of skulls or something.
Over the Doom vision of hell.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Moving on. Warner Brothers also on their panel showed the trailer for the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah.
I am so excited for this fucking movie. Did you see it?
Yeah, I didn't watch the trailer because I haven't even seen the Lego movie yet.
Okay.
This is something I feel like I should get around to.
It's great, and this trailer is all about his relationship with Robin, where basically the way they go through the trailer is Batman is like very dark and depressed, and Alfred is like, Bruce, you need to like, you know, fix yourself here, and you need to remember your son. And Bruce is like, I don't have a son. He's like, don't you remember the boy you adopted last year? And then like Robin comes in wearing like these giant like beer cup glasses, and he's voiced by Michael Cera, which is great. And then he like Batman shows him to the Batcave, and Robin is all excited because he gets to be in the Batcave. And then there's this great joke where Robin puts on his suit, and he's like, man, these are great, except the pants are a little tight, and he pulls the pants off, and that's the origin of Robin having the weird, like, legging.
Yeah, okay.
It's very funny. Will Arnett sounds hilarious as Batman. They have the voices are great. Lego Batman was, like, the highlight of the very, very good Lego movie. This makes me so much more excited than any of the other, like, Ben Affleck Batman stuff. This looks like a great Batman movie.
That sounds really good. I'll have to go check out that trailer.
All the trailers for this so far have been so good. I am so excited for this movie. Fucking next year we've got this and Justice League. This is going to be better.
Yeah.
I can guarantee
Just
that.
wait until they make Lego Justice League, though.
That'd be great. I think
directed by Zack Snyder.
I think in the Lego movie, Superman was Channing Tatum, and Jonah Hill was Green Lantern, and he annoyed Superman, and Superman didn't want to be near him.
Green Lantern is pretty annoying a lot of the time. Let's be fair. Especially if he's fucking Hal.
If they wanted to do Lego Justice League, I'd be full in on that. That'd be great. Really, I think they should just replace their DC film stuff and just let the Lego people do it.
Yeah. It's just a franchise of live-action Wonder Woman movies and then a bunch of Lego movies.
That'd be fine. All right. Like I don't know how they'd do Harley Quinn and Joker in Lego form.
It would probably be better.
Okay. And then finally for Warner Brothers, another trailer, our biggest trailer so far, for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the Harry Potter spinoff. Did you get a chance to see this one?
I don't care about Harry Potter stuff, so I didn't really check it out.
It's a really good trailer. I am very excited for this movie, and I was pretty wary of it when it was announced, but everything we've seen from it, like, the visual style of this movie looks so fucking cool, because it's like 1920s New York wizarding world. So it's like a meld of, like, the Harry Potter visual style from those movies, but now in 1920s New York with almost like this noirish kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, like Art Deco stuff.
It looks really cool. And like there's so many good actors in it. I love that we have a Harry Potter movie with Colin Farrell. Something about that is just hilarious to me.
Sure, yeah.
It's got there's lots of cool people in it. Eddie Redmayne, who is playing the main character, Newt Scamander, seems like a really cool character. I just like they've chosen an era, they've committed to a style, and it seems like it's got a pretty direct story, which is the whole thing. Is Newt Scamander, who is he's like he researches magical creatures. He comes to America. He's got a suitcase, which in the magical world, you can make kind of have a bunch of space in it. It's got creatures in it. Creatures escape, and he has to track them down. And it's kind of, I think that sounds like a good story to introduce us into this new era of the world and everything. So it looks really good. It's, as we've said before, directed by David Yates.
Yeah, he did the last few Harry Potter movies.
Yep, did half the series in the last 4. And actually just directed that movie, The Legend of Tarzan. I'd never talked about it on the podcast. I did wind up seeing that movie with my family because they wanted to go see it.
Okay.
It's good. That movie got really unfairly shit on. That's a good movie. It's not a great movie, but as Tarzan, my expectations for anything Tarzan related are down here on the floor.
Yeah.
And that movie was solidly up here on the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a reasonably sized table.
Yes.
So this is like an okay movie?
It had good performances. I think it had a pretty smart story for kind of dealing with the uncomfortable colonial legacy of Tarzan.
Right.
It had really cool visuals. I think David Yates is just a good director. So
no, his Harry Potter movies are good movies in general. So,
yes. So
I like the way those movies look. If nothing else.
I mean, I think this just looks very confident, very good, and it's clear to me that this is going to be a pretty sizable hit for Warner Brothers, and that's interesting to me because I think we all thought it sounded kind of desperate when they announced it, and now it looks like it's going to be their saving grace with the DC fiasco ongoing at the moment.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Well, maybe eventually they'll like roll Harry Potter into their DC cinematic universe and just like combine it all together to like try to like right that ship.
Harry Potter has to take on evil Batman because he's just killing so many people.
I would fucking watch that movie where Daniel Radcliffe has to act opposite Ben Affleck as Batman. That would be fucking amazing. That would be fucking amazing, dude.
The guy Batman brands would be Ron, right?
Yeah. Ron, that's actually how it all happens, is Ron, like, it is something totally, like, innocent. He's not even really supposed to be in jail. He's, like, appealing the case. But then he actually, like, he gets branded by Batman and murdered in jail. And so then Harry goes on, like, a blood feud vengeance. Like, it, like, tears America apart going after Batman. I would fucking watch that movie.
And I feel
just
like
leaves his wife and child behind.
Knowing how generally awesome Daniel Radcliffe is at this point.
Yeah, I
really...
love what he has done with his career so much that he has like just gone off and made like weird fucking movies.
And he's clearly a very funny, kind of strange guy.
Yeah.
He could make that work.
Yeah.
He totally could.
That is what they should do with this. Like, if they're trying to make more Harry Potter movies and they want my seat in the theater, fucking make that movie. That's all I've said.
Daniel Radcliffe's got that kind of grizzled beard right now.
Yeah.
It'd be perfect. Like, he's old. He's like
it's
grizzled.
an old adult Harry. Like, they don't need to do the weird sort of like makeup stuff that they did at the end of the last Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, I'm there.
Just fucking make it. He uses a spell. He casts a spell to resurrect Superman to help him in the fight against Batman.
That'd be great.
But then Superman's a zombie, so then they actually have to team up and beat zombie Superman. That's the third act twist.
So it's like Batman v Superman, but with...
Yeah, I mean, because Warner Brothers isn't going to help like avoid like stuffing as many villains and fights into the movie as possible. So
instead of Lex Luthor manipulating everything, it's Dobby. I'm just trying to think of another character like Lex Luthor, which really for Harry Potter is someone bouncing off the walls. And
yeah, that's where you find out that like Ron bullied Dobby like around the edges of the scenes all the time. That like is what motivated him. He has this like psychological complex, so he like assassinated Ron.
Dobby faked his own death in the last movie, so he could come back and have revenge.
He did die. That scene was really funny.
That's a sad scene.
It was so funny.
All right. Anyway,
beach.
All right. Marvel had a panel.
Yes, they did.
They showed a lot of cool stuff. I don't know what order it was in, so it's just in the order on my outline.
Okay.
Brie Larson is Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any Brie Larson movies. She's a great actress.
I probably have, but I could not see.
She's the reigning Best Actress winner for Room.
Okay.
She is. She was in a movie a couple years ago that she should have won that award for. Not that she shouldn't have for Room. She just should have won it twice. For Short Term 12, that's a great movie.
Okay.
She was in 21 Jump Street. She's been in several things. Former child star. She's a really, really talented actress, and I cannot think of anyone I would be more excited to have play Captain Marvel. So her name had been floated around. It had not been confirmed. Having this confirmed, I thought was very exciting.
Yeah, and this just felt like it was my annual reminder that I really need to go back and get the trades for that Captain Marvel run where they sort of rebranded the character that looks fucking awesome. I just, for whatever reason, I've never just gone and picked it up.
You also let me know what those are, because I'd kind of like to read that too.
Yeah. That was just a really cool move they did, and it very clearly casting her as just Captain Marvel and not Miss Marvel is indicating that they're moving in that kind of direction. So, and
I forget how the schedule lays out. I think her movie is maybe between Avengers: Infinity War 1 and 2.
Okay.
But I know she's going to be in those movies, and they're going to start shooting those fairly soon. So that's why they have her announced now. But she's going to be a big part of the world going forward, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Before we get to their trailers, other announcement stuff. I mean, they did a sizzle reel for Guardians 2, but that is not online. That was just for people in the hall. I'm sure you could find cam footage of it somewhere, but I don't really want to watch it that way.
Whatever. Until they've released the trailer.
I heard it was good. I mean, the word on Twitter was it looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And
Guardians of the Galaxy was really good.
Yeah.
We'll watch another one of those.
Absolutely. So they had that, and they talked about Spider-Man: Homecoming. They did they showed a couple minutes of footage, I guess, that sounded really good to me. And John Watts, the director, was there to stress this is a high school movie. That's what this is, and I love the sound of that. Apparently, all the scenes were Spider-Man in high school. Apparently, one of the scenes was him watching the fight from Civil War on YouTube in class,
that sounds really good.
Yep. So that's good, and they confirmed Vulture is the villain.
Yeah.
Although they have not confirmed casting. It seems like a pretty open secret. It's Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
But so we're gonna get Vulture.
Okay. Yeah. It feels like they have been trying to do that forever. Sam Raimi because that kept on being was the word for like Spider-Man 4, but it was also like one of the main rumors for Spider-Man 3.
Yes, and then I think one of the two Mark Webb films, they talked about Vulture.
Yeah, I think they like teased it, like you could see the wings in the background in Amazing Spider-Man 2 and like the Vault or something.
Yeah, so we're getting Vulture. Excited for this movie. Cannot wait. And then they did show a new trailer for Doctor Strange, their big movie this year. Those trailers are incredible.
They fucking look so awesome. That movie looks rad.
It looks like everyone at Marvel dropped some acid and then went and made a movie.
Which is exactly what you need to do when you are making a Doctor Strange movie. That is the right approach.
I mean, I totally get some people, there are some uncomfortable racial dynamics in this.
Sure.
But just on a visual level and everything, they have so clearly just swung for the fences on this one.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing about it looks like a conventional Marvel formula.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. And, that first trailer, which I actually saw again today when I saw Ghostbusters, because obviously the new one hasn't rolled out to theaters yet, that was a very cool trailer, but clearly they didn't have a lot ready to show. This was the all-in, here's the effects, here's how nuts it is. Oh, I can't wait.
That fucking shot in the new trailer where Doctor Strange is like walking towards the camera and he like flips the cape on super fast, that just like I just like shivered. It was just so fucking cool. Like, Benedict Cumberbatch looks so much like the character. Like, it's not since Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark has a live action character looked so or live action actor looks so much like the comic book character. It is insane. They are fucking identical.
It is, and I was skeptical of the Benedict Cumberbatch casting at first. It sounded too easy to me, and then when you see him in costume, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, like, man.
Looks good.
Yeah, that movie looks fucking awesome. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, good. Marvel's having a good year.
Yeah.
Then we got a trailer for Luke Cage, the next Marvel Netflix series. It looks good. It was a pretty cool fight scene they showed.
Yeah, it is, and I like that it's it clearly has its own tone and style, which is distinct from Jessica Jones and Daredevil, which is good. Like, that's what I want. And especially, I love the logo treatment they gave it, where like the logo just like fucking comes down and it's playing that soul music.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, it's a very good little 90-second trailer. I don't know when I'm going to have time to watch this damn thing, because I think it comes out mid-September.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Go time for games and stuff, but I'll work it in. Looks good. We had that. And they also did show, this was, I don't think, at the Marvel panel, but it was released, FX is creating a show called Legion, which is technically set somewhere in the Marvel universe, and it's based on a comic that has something to do with X-Men, but from everything I've heard, the show is its own thing. But it's by Noah Hawley, who did Fargo, which is just one of the best TV shows of the last 20 years. And so that's exciting. And I don't know if did you see that trailer?
No, I didn't.
It's very cool. I would recommend seeing it. It looks not different than Doctor Strange, because it's not all metaphysical stuff, but it's something where they're doing its craziness, and it's clearly getting into more metaphysical aspects of superheroes and stuff. So I like that about it. Cool. Just FX is an interesting place to do this kind of thing, because that's a much more adult drama network. So I like the sound of that. But anyway,
all right.
There's that. Another Marvel-related announcement. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 are coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance was one of my favorite early Xbox 360 games. So
I actually played that with you once in co-op.
Yeah.
Very fun.
It is a very fun co-op game for sure. Yeah, that is a really great couch co-op game.
Yeah, I might have to get these just for my brother and I to play.
Yeah. I've only ever rented Ultimate Alliance 2, and I remember kind of being turned off by some of this, because that was like, they kind of did a pseudo Civil War adaptation, and it just like never quite gelled with me. Like, it felt like it was too different from the original Ultimate Alliance. But Ultimate Alliance 1, like, that game fucking goes places. Like, that is, if you are a big fan of Marvel Comics and you have not played that game, like, they stuff, like, every character, you go all over the place. Like, you go to, like, Asgard and everything. It's a really cool game if you are a fan of that stuff.
Yeah, and I know people yesterday online were just going ape for this, because these are very beloved games.
Yeah.
And a little speculation, maybe this means we'll get a third one at some point.
Yeah, maybe that would be cool. I mean, because Marvel is getting into the game-making business. Like, the Spider-Man game is like the first salvo of that, so...
Yeah. Certainly this is a good way to tide us over until that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, fun. And then the last thing I have from Comic-Con is also Benedict Cumberbatch related. They did put out a trailer for Sherlock Season 4.
Oh, I didn't even know that they put that out.
They did. It's way too dark for my tastes. It's like a super dark Sherlock trailer where it's like, everything's going wrong. It's like, I feel like that's the trailer for every Sherlock season. Yeah. And it's a problem I have with the show, is that they never just tell a normal Sherlock story. It's always the end of the fucking world. But I don't know. I tried to watch that special from New Year's Day. I could not get into it, so I might just be over.
I thought it was okay.
And that's fine. I've never liked Sherlock as much as most people do, so I might just be over it. But some people go ahead and look at pretty Benedict Cumberbatch on screen, so it's fun.
Okay, way to be a fucking dick about it. Like it's a decent show. It's not the greatest show in the world.
No, I do think a major part of its appeal online is people.
Yeah, that's like the weird Tumblr audience. That's a small portion of the people who watch the show. Come on.
I know, I'm just joking.
Yeah, fucking dick.
It's fine. Sorry.
God.
Anyway, looks fine.
You just don't...
Okay, I'm a little turned off. It started with like 20 seconds of Moriarty bullshit.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so if you are going to sit there and complain about Moriarty in this fucking thing, then yeah. Let's fucking be real about this. That fucking version of Moriarty is terrible.
Yes. Any other news I've forgotten?
I could not tell you. My brain has been frazzled from all the Comic-Con news.
No, it's okay.
Way too much shit. Like, too concentrated.
Only other thing I guess I would talk about is Batman the Killing Joke, the animated movie, is coming out. Yeah. And there was a lot of controversy around it at Comic-Con. I am seeing the movie tomorrow night. We're recording this on Sunday night, so this comes out Monday. I'm going to see it. They're doing theatrical showings. I've got my tickets already. I will say, if I had heard what we heard at Comic-Con, I would not have bought tickets.
I heard the thing, too.
I guess we won't spoil it now. I think we'll talk about it once we've seen the movie next week. That's not what I want, but I've already bought the tickets, so we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll get to hear Mark Hamill as the Joker, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see, it's weird. It sounds like they did a weird thing.
Sounds like they did a weird thing. You can look it up if you want.
I mean, to be fair, Bruce Timm has done this exact same weird thing before, so...
Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't surprise us that he did this weird thing again. I don't know why he likes doing this weird thing.
Maybe we want Bruce Timm to, rein himself in on his worst instincts is the thing, though.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Star Trek Beyond.
Okay, right.
We're going to talk about Star Trek Beyond.
I saw that movie, 3 hours ago.
Okay, I saw it yesterday, so we're going to talk about this to end the podcast. Sort of spoiler portion, so if you haven't seen the movie, you can leave, come back when you've seen it. Star Trek Beyond, the Enterprise goes into space. The Enterprise...
And it blows up!
Blows up good.
God damn it, they keep on blowing up the fucking Enterprise.
They do, it blows up good. They're on a planet. They meet...
Idris Elba's there.
In makeup, and then he's not in makeup, and then they play some Beastie Boys, and they kick some ass. This is a good movie.
Yes, this is a good movie.
Yeah. I actually want to start with the destruction of the Enterprise.
Okay.
Just while you say it, because that's one of the things I was most skeptical of in the trailers.
Yeah.
That is the best Enterprise getting destroyed sequence there's ever been.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It feels a little rote just because they've done it so much, and not necessarily these people have done it so much. But
it has just been done before.
But that's ultimately to this movie. It doesn't matter. That was a very, very good intense sequence.
And I like the stages of it. Of the ship is slowly falling apart, and they keep on trying to okay, if we do this, we might be able to save it. And it's oh fuck, that didn't work. Okay, what if we do this? And it does feel like they are doing absolutely everything in their power to hold this thing together. Mm-hmm. But then eventually it just has to all crumble apart. It is a very well done sequence.
Absolutely, and I wanted to start there because it kind of goes to my main thing I love about this movie, which is one of my favorite things about Star Trek in general, is you have a crew of professionals who are good at their jobs.
Yeah.
I've always loved that about the original series, Next Generation. It's fun to just be on the bridge and see the captain, whoever it is, giving orders, and people who are good at their job. Conflict in Star Trek is not generated by people being idiots. And that is what conflict in a lot of sci-fi and genre storytelling is, and that's not Star Trek. And because the first movie is sort of an origin story, you don't get a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And then Into Darkness is a weird story, so you don't get a lot of that. But here, because you're 3 years into the 5-year mission, you start with the Enterprise being a well-oiled machine, and that first half hour of the movie into the destruction of the Enterprise, I got so much pleasure out of that, just seeing the crew be the crew, and then put in the hot seat and seeing them respond.
Yeah.
They had that all perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the characters feel so much like the characters here.
Yeah, it is the thing that has been so true of all these movies, and it is this, with this one, I feel like they did the best job of just letting these characters sort of be themselves, letting this cast play these characters, and not making a plot that is so overbearing that it feels like they have to act out of character or anything like that too much.
Exactly. And there are some things where these actors play them very different than the original actors, and that's fine. Zachary Quinto his Spock is very different, I feel like, than Leonard Nimoy's Spock. And
Yeah.
part of it is they write him more like a robot than they do original Spock.
Right.
But to me, that's fine at this point because Quinto has so come into his own in that role.
Yeah.
And, Carl Urban is, if anything, a little even crustier than original DeForest Kelley. But that's totally fine because he does it wonderfully.
Yeah.
And, Chris Pine is playing a pretty sobered version of Kirk here, of this Kirk. And I really I'm talking about how they're different. I saw a lot of Shatner in him in this one.
Yeah, I did like how it really felt like he sort of changed the way he was playing the character, which felt very appropriate to. He's not like this young buck who's just like in the hot seat all the time, is just like going crazy. It's like he has the elements of that, and I love when they play Sabotage. It like does a close up on his face and he gives that smirk. He says, "That's a good choice." Like, like you get a bit of that in there, like when he's riding the motorcycle. But for a lot of the movie, it is much more that sort of like calm, collected, like decision maker kind of captain. That is what I think of when I think of Kirk.
I mean, overall, when I say this feels like exactly what the sequel to 09 should have been, it's for a lot of reasons, but the main one is it feels like the characters evolved, and they don't really evolve in Into Darkness. Into Darkness, if anything, just kind of rehashes the arcs from the first movie. And here, it is 3 years later, and clearly these are different people than when we last saw them. Things have happened, and then we see more progression over the course of this movie. It's exactly what a good sequel should be.
Yeah.
And so we have that whole opening sequence where we're on the Enterprise. They're 3 years in, and Kirk is doing one of his logs about, where are we 3 years in? And I really liked that because it's kind of, you get this macro view of something that to us was always micro on the original series, which is that these people are out in space for 5 years, and you never really think about, what does that mean? I thought that was a really nice thing to think about here.
Yeah, and it was a good way to sort of like reintroduce us to these characters and stuff, because I've only ever seen these movies when they are in the theater. I've never gone back to watch them, so it is nice to get the quick reminder of like, okay, yeah, this is kind of what is up with the Spock from these movies, and like this is like here's Sulu, and here's like Chekhov, and here's Bones, and here's like what the situation is with the crew. That was like a very nice, concise way to sort of deliver a lot of exposition at the very beginning of the movie that didn't feel forced in any way.
Absolutely, and I think Kirk has a interesting little character arc here where he is feeling disillusioned. Yeah. And I think for reasons you can kind of tell, it's not that he dislikes any of this, it's just he feels like a little out of place, he's not sure what his role is. There's that great scene with Kirk and McCoy, where it's their birthday, and that, oh my god, I saw DeForest Kelley and William Shatner there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what was missing from the second movie, by the way. And I even read a pretty interesting interview with Carl Urban. It's on IGN if you want to go read it, where he said he almost didn't come back for this. He wasn't on contract, and there was another movie he was thinking of doing, and it wasn't until Justin Lin, the director, called him and said, "You're in this more. Here's what we want to do with your character. Here's the story." And he said, okay, that's what I wanted. And he said, I was unhappy with Star Trek Into Darkness because it's not...
he's like barely in that movie.
Well, and it's barely in it. He said, and I didn't get to... Even in the scenes I was in, I wasn't directly interacting with Jim or with Spock, and it wasn't being the character I love. And clearly, they made up for that in spades here.
Yeah, like he has a lot of screen time in this movie. He's got a lot of time with Spock. He's got a lot of... Like, he has a lot more time with Kirk in this movie than I think Spock does.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, and that makes sense because Kirk and Spock are in every scene together in the first two.
Yeah, so those movies are really about those two characters, so it is really nice to have, like, Bones come and be like, hey, motherfuckers, I'm here too, goddammit.
Oh, and it goes to a larger point, which we'll get back to the character arcs in a second. I feel like they not only have each of the characters right here, but they have the relationships and the balance right.
Yeah.
So, like, you have a good amount of Kirk with McCoy and McCoy with Spock, and Spock with Kirk a couple of times. And so that holy trinity, basically, they're all there and they feel balanced.
Yeah.
And another thing, like, one of the things the first two movies almost never do is Spock and McCoy. Yeah. And that's actually, if you actually look at the original series, I think those two probably have more screen time opposite each other.
Yeah, because it's so much about them butting heads about their different sort of solutions for the problems.
So there's a bunch of scenes with those two because they're the ones who are marooned together on the planet.
Yeah.
And they have the great scenes between those two. The writing is just really good on a character level.
Yeah.
So loved that. And then I feel like just the way they use like Uhura and Sulu, and everyone gets a moment to shine.
And I like, Simon Pegg writing the script. There's a pretty meaty role for Scotty to play.
Yes.
Like, Scotty and Kirk spend a lot of the movie together, so luckily Scotty gets a huge amount of screen time by virtue of being with the main character for most of the movie.
He does. And I mean, I don't think he's artificially inflated.
No, like, it was just something I thought of at some point. It's like, man, Scotty's in this movie a lot, and I really love Simon Pegg's Scotty. But in the back of I was like, oh, right, he wrote this movie too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And, no, Scotty's great in this, and I think he's very well used because he gets to basically act with the new character in this movie, Jayla,
who's a great character. I thought she was awesome.
She was awesome, and here's how you know a Star Trek character will work. There's going to be so much cosplay of her.
Oh yeah.
So much.
Yeah, don't search for her on DeviantArt after don't just stay away from there. That's not a place you need to be.
No, I mean one of my only complaints with this movie, and it's a complaint with the first two also, is for some reason most of the aliens in the Star Trek reboot series do not look like Star Trek aliens to me.
Yeah,
like they're weird kind of CGI barf, frankly, and they don't really Star Trek aliens are not all that alien.
Yeah, in this movie, the opening scene with him with the weird monkey aliens, that didn't do much for me. It's got that same issue.
Yes, but Jayla, she looks like she's plucked right out of the original series or something.
Yeah.
Striking design, all practical makeup, really good performance. Someone who kind of is on the planet as part of the mission they go to do, and they befriend. That felt the most Star Trek to me of anything in this.
Yeah, and I'll be kind of annoyed if she doesn't come back for the next movie, because they really hit something with this character, I think. In particular, her relationship with Scotty is so strong. Mm-hmm. I think, they really should bring her back for the next movie.
Having her as, a cadet in engineering, I think we would all appreciate that.
Yeah.
And they opened the door with them giving her the
yeah, exactly. That was the thing that was okay, yes, there is a way, whether they planned it or not, clearly this actress did such a good job with this character, you have left that door open, fucking make sure you use that.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a really strong character. And it's nice to have a new character that is that you can get very excited about, because there's something at some point about this being all the characters being new versions of the characters from the original series, that eventually you kind of want a completely new character for you to sink your teeth into in a way, and I thought she was that in this movie for me.
Oh, absolutely. And again, something about the original series is that it's kind of an anthology show. You have a different kind of guest star or something every week, and you have these characters you kind of fall in love with in these 45-minute stories, and she was kind of this movie's version of that.
Yeah.
So, and it's exactly what we wanted, because I think, again, talking about this being the perfect sequel to 09, Star Trek 09 resets the board, the sky is the limit when that movie's done, and then they go in this weird direction and do Khan again.
Yeah.
But here it's this is exactly what we wanted, which is you get to tell a new story, you're not bound by any continuity, you can just kind of do something crazy, have new characters.
Push the old characters forward.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But going back to Kirk's overall character arc, I think this is a really good screenwriting 101 script, where everything is kind of interrelated. It's a clear 3-act structure. It doesn't really have any fat on it. All the characters get moments to shine. And I think if you just look at the way Kirk's arc progresses and how that intersects with the Idris Elba character Krall, that's really good screenwriting. Kirk is thinking of leaving. He's kind of conflicted, and then he has this adventure. He realizes how much he needs these people, how much they need him. And Krall calls him on it at the end and said, I saw you were thinking of leaving. And Krall himself has decided that he is abandoning everything he believed in because he thinks war is better than peace.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that last act and how it tied all that together. Mm-hmm. Because it's just really good basic screenwriting. Yeah. And it's something we know Simon Pegg is good at. If you look at his movies with Edgar Wright and stuff, they're just like Shaun of the Dead and stuff. They know how to do this.
Yeah.
This was him and a writer named Doug Young, who I am not familiar with right off the bat, but clearly credit goes to him too. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do think that the bare structural elements of the script are definitely really strong. But I would say, to touch back on when I said my main complaint with the movie is that there's too much action. I think the fact that there is so much action sometimes distracts from that, where there are sections of the movie where it felt like it was just kind of getting away from whatever its central argument was about Kirk or about the villain, and it was there's so much insane shit going on all the time without them sort of taking a breath between different action scenes, which when we talk about the Bourne movies in the next podcast, they are masterclasses at handling that sense of pacing between action scenes. That's what this movie needed to sort of draw more attention to the fact that it was doing that stuff.
I can see that, yeah. I mean, where I felt that especially actually was in the beginning of the movie, where I thought it felt a little too eager to get out of the first act. When they are on that starbase, what's it called?
Yorktown.
Yorktown,
yeah.
Which is a really good scene. Yorktown's a cool design. As Thomas, my brother, pointed out to me when we saw it, yet another sci-fi movie taking its cues from Mass Effect.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Anyway, you have that, and I thought the whole introduction into how they get to that planet is done in this little mini montage. That needed to be like 3 minutes longer just to let that breathe a little more. Because there's basically that character who is like the Trojan horse who comes to introduce them. And it just was cut kind of too quickly, and it felt like they needed to get to the action. And then when they get onto the planet, I agree, a couple little moments, and then probably near the end. Like, again, I would love a director's cut that's like just 10 minutes longer.
Yeah. Because it has, to me, additionally, the what I kind of think of as like the Aliens problem, which is like Aliens, I think, is a really good movie, but every time I get to I've watched it like 3 or 4 times at this point, partially because I had to watch it for a class, and every time I get to the end of watching that movie, I am fucking exhausted, and not in a good way, because, and it was something that like I like thought so hard about, like, what would I do in this movie so that you would not feel this way when I got to the end of the movie. Terminator 2 actually has a similar issue for me. And the problem is with like Aliens, I think Star Trek Beyond has the same thing, is the third act has like 3 or 4 different action sequences all tied together, like end to end, kind of like daisy chain without anything in between. And the biggest issue is like there's kind of no way to avoid that problem based on the way the ending of the movie goes, because there's too much stuff that the characters have to accomplish in the last act, and nothing to reasonably put in between for pacing and for like breathing and to like catch up with the characters. And so I feel like there's just like a moment where it's like you have the huge action scene at the end where like Kirk and everyone like they break everyone out, and the new character Jayla or whatever her name is like defeats the guy who killed her father, and it's like that feels like that's like almost like just the climactic action scene. And then it's like, oh, but then we need to fight this giant fucking swarm of drones, and Bones and Spock have to go out, and then we have to fight the villain. And it's like 3 or 4 different action sequences all like on top of each other. And like Force Awakens almost did the same thing too. It's like you can't do that, or I'm just going to go fucking crazy in the seat, because it's just like one thing after another without like story and character stuff in between there, you know?
I see where you're coming from. I didn't mind that part of the movie, partially because, one, I thought it is a lot of action scenes daisy chained. I thought they were all pretty fantastic in their own right.
They are really good on their own. Like, that is for sure.
Yeah. And then I guess the thing that I thought was a little weird about the movie up until that point is we knew nothing about Crawl. We had no idea what his motivation was. And I almost thought I missed something. Like, did I accidentally doze off for a second?
Right.
And did I go to the bathroom without knowing it or something? And, like, just leave the theater?
I hope not. Like, I would feel really bad for all the other people in the theater.
I mean, literally get up and go to the physical.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean.
And come back, yes. No, that kind of thing. And no, it's just they were saving it for the third act. So I feel like there's enough plot stuff coming through in that third act to figure out his motivations and what his plan is and what they have to do.
But that feels like it's just, to me, it feels like it's kind of crammed in there. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's like it needed to come earlier in the movie than like in the last sequence.
Or you could have elongated that sequence a little bit. Like once they get to Yorktown, maybe it doesn't need to be as balls to the wall or something. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But those are some really good sequences.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that's not a huge complaint for me, but it is like something that like keeps it from being like a fantastic movie to me. Yeah. But yes, like the action scenes on their own are really well choreographed. They're very interesting. They're distinct from one another, which is very important. A lot of action movies end up having like a bunch of action sequences. They're just like, this is like the third car chase this movie has had. It doesn't have that like kind of issue with it. It's like all those sequences feel distinct and fun and interesting to me, and that's what I want from an action sequence.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, talking back to the beginning of the movie, actually, when our first trip to Yorktown, another just character detail I want to talk about, because it's been in the media, but I really like it in the movie, is Sulu being gay.
Sure. Yeah.
And he has a husband, and he has a daughter.
Yeah.
And I like that for a number of reasons. The first one actually has nothing to do with his sexuality. It's just, I can totally buy Sulu being the guy on that ship who has a spouse and
has like
daughter,
a family,
and he just doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, because he is kind of if you look at the George Takei performance or the John Cho performance, he is the military man who does his job. He's really good at it, but he's kind of soft spoken.
Yeah, he's the professional of the group.
Right.
He's the helmsman.
And I love that about him. And there's just little, they never overplay it, where John Cho is clearly thinking about his daughter in certain scenes.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's worried because his family is there on Yorktown. But there's never histrionics where like he's suddenly like, oh no, my family. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to do that because the only way I can help them is to do my job.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's a nice evolution of Sulu. And then, of course, there's been a lot of back and forth. And I actually think it's been kind of an interesting dialogue between George Takei and the people who made the movie and stuff. And I think him being gay is totally cool, and it's nice to be able to have that in the universe of the movie. It feels very Star Trek to have a gay crewman, and that's not an issue. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So that feels like a very solid evolution of this mythos to me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that's like very effective for, like, not necessarily him being gay, but him having like a family is very effective for the, like, just giving that character a bit more like color to him, so that, like, because there are sequences in the movie where Sulu is very important for like short stretches of, like, when he is given command of the ship when Kirk has to go deal with other stuff and everything's falling apart, like, he's like very important in that, like, short sequence of the movie. And then at near the end, or probably more near the middle, when they're all in the camp, like, Sulu is very important because he takes charge there as well. I think, like, that, just like because it is like, it's just like a handful of shots in the early parts of the movie of, like, the picture of his daughter, like him going and hugging his husband, like that stuff. Like, it's just really brief, but it adds a sense of more to this character that makes him very recognizable.
Exactly, and it's also, again, on the script writing 101 thing, it's a very smart way to make us care about Yorktown for the final action sequence.
Yeah.
Because it's not that we know his husband and daughter, but we know they're important to Sulu, and just knowing they're there just adds this little extra layer of humanity and puts a face on what they're fighting for.
Yeah.
And that's all you need, and it's very well done. So, and again, most everything we're talking about has nothing to do with him being gay, which to me is the reason you make him gay.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why you do it, because it doesn't matter, so why not?
Yeah.
So, good stuff there. So yeah, I think all the stuff on the planet is really good, because part of it is just shocking to me realizing, oh, they haven't done any planet-side stuff in the first two Star Treks at all.
Right, yeah.
And
yeah.
Other than the scenes in San Francisco, but, like, that is such a big part of Star Trek to me, is going to an alien world.
Yeah, beaming down and seeing what's up with, like, hey, you guys have based your entire society off of, like, Chicago mobsters. That's weird. That is Star Trek to me.
That's totally the next Star Trek. They get Michael Mann and do, like, a Chicago crime movie with Star Trek.
Or, like, what would be amazing is if, like, J.J. Abrams or Justin Lin films all the scenes in, like, space, and then Michael Mann films all the scenes on the planet, and they, like, put it together.
That'd be great. No, but being just on a planet with, like, actual location photography made this feel very distinct from the first two.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a nice mystery. Like, one of the things I realized early on is, oh, I realized why the trailers for this movie were bad. They couldn't show anything more than, like, 25 minutes in.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with that now, because it's clear this is kind of a mystery plot, and you don't want to, like, give the game away as you're watching it. And so it was a nice sense of discovery, because all we knew going in was the Enterprise gets fucked, and then they're on the planet, and the rest of it, that's just like the first act. So that's kind of exactly what a trailer should be. I think they probably could have cut it more excitingly.
Yeah, they could have, like, done more to give a little bit of context of, like, give you a sense of, like, oh, okay, Kirk has, like, this character arc in the movie, or, like, hey, that guy's probably the villain.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But anyway, so love all of that. As you say, Jayla, very good character. Why is Jayla awesome, Sean?
I think the actress just does such a good job of having, like, she just has a presence. I love that she feels like when you first meet her, she feels like she looks like she is going to be the, like, number one cliche female character in, like, this kind of genre story, which is, like, the savage warrior woman that is, like, noble and, like, lives in the man's world or something, but is, like, this noble warrior princess kind of thing. Like, you know, you've seen a billion movies and cartoons and stuff with, like, that kind of throwaway character. And so at first I was kind of like, oh, they're doing this. But then when you get to know her, and it's like, she has been fixing this Federation ship, and that's, like, how she learned English, was talking to this ship. And I like how they do a nice balance of of her dialogue, and they do the same thing with Idris Elba's character, of that, like, she kind of speaks broken English, but she's very fluent at the same time. Like, she has weird vocabulary choices here and there, but most of the time she's just speaking English with a slight accent. I think, like, they do a nice job of balancing that, of, like, not making it feel like you're going, like, too far, of, like, almost like a Tarzan thing of, like, me Tarzan, but you still have that kind of slight, like, exotic, like, stranded on a planet quality of her, where she, like, refers to the ship as home and stuff like that. So I like those things, but then I really love, and it comes through her relationship with Scotty, her technical know-how and her ability to sort of maneuver around the ship and fix problems and sort of tackle problems from different perspectives. And she feels like kind of the most capable character for most of the movie in a way that feels very natural to me.
Yes.
Yeah. It's cool. She's just a really fucking cool character.
Absolutely, and just putting her with Scotty, I also think, is a very smart choice, because Scotty has this kind of innate humanity to him, and this just interest in things, and so having him be with her, who is kind of an opposite in some ways, where she's a little guarded, but she also has the same interests, and seeing them become friends, and then all the stuff on the Franklin. Very creative. And I also love that Franklin set. For the USS.
It's very good, yeah.
Like, because I think, actually, it's part of the logic of destroying the Enterprise, is you get to do the second half of the movie in what looks like an old-timey starship from the original series.
Yeah, the whole movie isn't shot inside of an iPhone.
Well, that's one way to put it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I liked kind of having an old-fashioned bridge and everything.
Yeah.
And it was a cool kind of weathered set, and how they have to kind of get it out of there, and the whole scene where they have to launch off, and that's Sulu's big hero moment is really cool. So, yeah, lots of good stuff there. And I also think they did a good job with the whole planet stuff of not drawing things out too long.
Yeah.
Like, that section of the movie is shorter than I thought it would be, because they get in, they learn what they have to, and they get out. There's some really good character scenes, there's some good action scenes, and then they rescue the crew. I mean, this is one of the things just that felt like a very direct repudiation of Star Trek Into Darkness for me, is Star Trek Into Darkness has that scene that is deeply troubling to me, where this ship crashes into San Francisco, basically obliterates a city, and no one mentions it, and that's about the least Star Trek thing you could do.
Right.
And in this, it's all about protecting life. Like, some crew members are clearly lost early on, and it hurts everyone. And then their mission from that point on is we have to save the crew. We have to think about the crew. We have to save the crew. There's an acknowledgement there that there are more than those 7 people on the ship.
Right, yeah.
And they have to save those people. And then with Yorktown, it's we're not going to let him destroy this thing. There's not just mass collateral damage.
Yeah.
That's also very nice. So you can do it.
Yes, except, like, there have been several movies showing lately that's like you do not have to destroy entire cities and like have this implied death toll of millions to make your action scenes have stakes.
Yeah, because I'm fine that they go for the big stakes at the end, but I also like that for the first 2 acts it's much more intimate. It's how do we get our crew, how do we get home. It's maybe not about saving the world, and in the end it kind of is about saving the world, but that's okay. It's a movie and you have to do that, I guess.
Yeah, you have the weird like kind of nondescript death weapon that the guy's going for, and that's like kind of a cheap plot device, I felt, but it wasn't a big deal.
No, I mean, this is glowing doodad on the roof,
yeah.
which is what we've had a lot of lately, in movies we love and movies we hate. And this was, I think, as good a version of glowing doodad on the roof as you generally get.
Sure, yeah.
But still, and that's one of the things. I don't think Star Trek Beyond is a great Star Trek movie, in that it's, like, really innovative or anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay. Honestly, something that is sort of this good and straightforward, I think, is exactly what the franchise needed at this moment.
Sure.
And if you want to reinvent next time, that's the time to do it. This needed to be something a little simpler, and I think they did it exactly right.
Yeah. There is, like, a weird lingering question, I think, in the movie of, like, how did the alien species that had the doodad that was from the planet that they crash land on get the doodad in the like there's like a weird loop in the mystery that feels like was like never wrapped around back on, because like Spock has like the whole thing was like, oh, the thing is from this planet, and I guess like that's kind of significant because obviously the Idris Elba's character's backstory is like that the people on that planet had a lot of technology and they're just kind of gone. And that thing's got onto some other planet. Like,
it's completely a MacGuffin. I mean,
Yeah.
It is the Hitchcock definition of a MacGuffin, which is it's the thing the heroes are chasing, and it's the sleight of hand where you don't say anything about it.
But
And
like a MacGuffin can be a MacGuffin and still fit in the universe. And like I felt like there were like a couple of things that it felt like you needed to sort of like establish for this thing to feel like something that actually exists to me, which like a MacGuffin can, like the Maltese Falcon is like the most classic example of that. And the Maltese Falcon, while it is absolutely in a plot sense a fucking super MacGuffin, it still feels like important and like there and real. And to me, like for half the movie, the weapon thing just felt like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like it's a thingy. It's just a thingy.
Yeah.
I guess people want it. I don't know.
No, I understand.
It dissolves people, I guess. I don't know what it does.
Yes. Well, anyway, so what else is there to talk about? I really did love the sabotage sequence.
It's a very good sequence, yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of funny because famously they used the song "Sabotage" in the first Star Trek movie, where little Kirk is driving the car,
right?
And then they used it in the trailer for Star Trek Beyond, and I don't think it really worked in those contexts. And I think the big difference is it's so winking here. It's so self-aware,
and it feels like it has like a good like script set up in like a bit of a character basis in it that makes it really work for me in a way that it's like if it was just there, I think I would like kind of roll my eyes at it, but the fact that it was set up earlier makes it work for me.
And there's two great moments with it where Kirk, as you say, it zooms in on him. He's like, good choice of music.
Yeah.
And then you have fucking Spock and McCoy in the ship, and McCoy says, "Is that classical music?"
Yeah.
And that was just a great little acknowledgement that this would be a very old song to these people.
Yeah.
Which is
but
great.
Like all the shots of not the Enterprise, like what is the Franklin?
The Franklin,
like surfing the waves of the drone ships and them exploding behind it. Like that's just fucking rad. That's so cool.
It's so cool, and with that song and the way they use the song there,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. And I haven't talked about it much yet. So this is directed by Justin Lin, who did 4 of the Fast and Furious movies and really turned that series around and got it on track. And clearly a very good choice for this movie because he directs action really well. He's a very inventive visual stylist when it comes to that stuff. And he also, I think, does great work with character. So he was the perfect choice for this.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie, to me, has as much visual oomph to it as the Abrams films. Sure. And I think it loses a little something in that, but I think it gains other things, and that's what happens when you switch directors.
Yeah,
so.
I think the action in this movie is way better choreographed to me than it was in the other two. Like the other two were fine. Here, it's like a lot of the action sequences I thought were like really actively like strong and really good.
I totally understand, and it does depend, I think, on the kind of action you're talking about, because there are some things Abrams did spectacularly in those movies. Like there's the scene in Into Darkness where the Enterprise is dead and it's falling towards Earth, and it's like in atmosphere. That is a technical marvel. The way the ship is turning, and they're doing all this stuff probably with like gimbals and turning stuff, and Kirk is like running on the roof of the ship and stuff. Right. That's a really cool sequence, and they don't do anything like that here. But when it comes to some of the ship-to-ship combat, I think Justin Lin does that kind of stuff better.
Yeah.
He does better stuff like on the planets and stuff, because again, there wasn't any of that in the first two. So yeah, it kind of depends on what you're talking about. But overall, I think if you want to inject some action into Star Trek, this was the right guy to pick.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and then I think all the stuff in Yorktown at the end is cool, even if, as you say, it can get a little exhausting, because you kind of have multiple climaxes, is the thing.
Yeah.
But that's okay in the end. Not a terrible problem.
Yeah, there's like, you reminded me when we were talking about the sabotage thing of one thing about the movie that at that end that also kind of bugged me, is I feel like their justification for dude like Spock and McCoy being in that drone ship is very bad. Like it makes no fucking, especially because like it's 5 seconds later that they realize, oh wait, we can do this thing with this song too. We don't need you to do this thing. And it's like but then when it like comes to the end, like it's very clear in his script reason why they had to be there to catch Kirk at the end. But still, like that was like one of the things in the movie I was like, you needed to come up with a better explanation. Like, it provided a lot of fun little moments and pieces of dialogue and stuff, so I enjoyed it on that basis. It was just like, man, did that make no fucking sense that you would do this right there. Like, especially when they, like, didn't actually really contribute at all to defeating the drones in any significant way.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of sad things.
Okay, yeah.
I think they handled the death of Leonard Nimoy perfectly.
Yeah.
I think acknowledging it in universe is what you had to do. And giving that to Zachary Quinto, who, as I think, came to learn after Nimoy's death in real life, idolized this guy and loved this man. And I think you could see that in his performance, and that was good.
And I like that they made it part of Spock's character arc in this movie, and it wasn't just like the thing with like the picture or something at the end of like, oh, hey, there's a thing. It's like, oh, yeah, it's okay, Leonard Nimoy passed away.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like it's a standard part of the movie.
Yes, and then, of course, Anton Yelchin has passed away. And obviously they couldn't build anything into the movie for that. Yeah. But I think he's very good in this, as he always was. He's a fun part. I like that he's with Kirk, and he is just so eager all the time to just do good. And that's what Chekhov always was. He's like the eager little puppy on the ship. And so he did great there. And I think, I don't know what they had and what they didn't, before he died. I'm sure the movie was done by the time he passed away. But I think there was something about the end of the movie and having the monologue done by everybody that just felt like very apropos of having all the loss that went into this movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of touching.
Yeah.
So just wanted to mention those two things. And, J.J. Abrams, who's still producing these, has said they have no plans to recast the character, and they're probably just going to retire the character somehow.
I think that's the right thing to do.
That's the right thing to do. I think it's very easy to do. And I hope they keep him alive. I hope they say something like he got transferred and he's second in command somewhere.
Sure,
and just let him be off being awesome, just we don't see him anymore.
Right, yeah.
I think that's the way to do it. But yeah, I mean, I came to the end of this movie, and it's such a nice little ending they do with Kirk's birthday, and everyone's there. And it just, I'm now very excited to see more of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we got these 3 out of the way, these first 3 movies, which was, you know, probably what was originally contracted. I hope everyone comes back and we can find a way to keep this going, because this, to me, proved this has legs.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it is a very fun movie that, like, but it is also, I think some of my issues with there being too much action is, like, some of that is coming from a hope that, like, with this sort of, like, them finally really finding their footing with their cast and everything like that, and, like, really getting that solid, that now they can try something that's maybe a little bit more intellectual in some way, like a little bit more classic Star Trek, the way that I think of it. That's like that doesn't need to rely on the action stuff as heavily as all 3 of these movies have.
Yes. That's my only question in universe is they already burned through the first 3 years of the 5-year mission.
Yeah.
Do we jump past that next time? Do we go and we just say we can do a bunch of stories in years 4 and 5? It's not a big concern or anything. I think that was the right decision for this movie.
Yeah.
To put us right in the middle of it, but I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of directions they can go for the sequel.
I love the insinuation that Kirk at this age could already be an admiral.
Yeah.
He really climbed that ladder fast.
Yeah, like, it really is, like, about, like, how much time has he spent in Starfleet? Like, 5-6 years or something?
Yeah, like, whenever the 09 movie starts to now, how many years is that?
Yeah.
Like 7 or 8?
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone has probably done that analysis, but... And to be fair, the dude fucking deserves it. He's been in 3 movies and he's saved the entire fucking, like, galaxy 3 times.
Yeah, like, he's a very effective individual, that's for
Yes.
sure. So, yeah, you might as well make him Vice Admiral. I mean, they really should just, like, elect him, like, Prime Minister of the Federation or however the fuck that works.
Yeah, I don't think we know much about the organizational hierarchy of someone does.
Yeah.
This is Star Trek. Someone's figured it out. But
Sure, yeah.
I don't know much about it.
It's just like it's ruled all by an evil despot. And you just really never find out about it.
Wow. Okay.
So it's the subtext of Star Trek.
Okay.
This is part of Roddenberry's great plan.
Crazy.
Yeah.
No, and you know, we talked last week when we did our Star Trek retrospective about what does optimism in Star Trek look like. They nailed it here.
Sure.
It's a world that strives to be progressive, but is not necessarily perfect. And so, like, I think Krall is actually a very good villain for it and felt like a Star Trek villain in that he is an oblique commentary on what we are going through right now.
Yeah.
Which is this decision of, do you get frustrated and just say war is everything and fuck it? Or do you really try the hard work of peace and moving forward? And obviously they could not have planned that when they wrote this movie.
Yeah.
1 week after the fucking Republican National Convention.
Yeah.
This felt very apropos.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It is smart to sort of, like, bring that discussion of, I think, because, like, a lot of Star Trek fans have those sort of, like, issues with, like, well, how far does this go? Like, where does someone who is like Krall, who is this, like, soldier guy who maybe, like, isn't satisfied with how the Federation is and the ideals of the Federation, but is still part of it, how does he fit into it? And, like, and bringing some of that stuff into the thematic discussion in this movie was very smart.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for this week. We are going to be back actually in just a couple of days. This is our Monday podcast. We are going to have a Wednesday podcast.
Special episode
that we'll be recording right now, but it's long promised. We are going to be doing our Jason Bourne retrospective.
Yes.
Friday, July 29th, the new film, just titled Jason Bourne, directed by Paul Greengrass with Matt Damon, comes back. It is the true sequel to the original trilogy, and those are movies I love intensely and find fascinating, and I think you probably feel the same way.
Yep.
And we are going to talk about them, and I have not been this excited to do a podcast in a while.
Yeah, so, stay tuned, because we're going to Jason Bourne this shit up.